consistent with the endorsement agreement. And the company alleges that under the agreement's terms, the intellectual property developed for the brand would be jointly owned by Donaldson and VDC. The company says that they always plan to assign the trademarks to the party's jointly owned company, but Donaldson, quote, blocked the necessary corporate paperwork to create the company. Now, as for Mr. Beast's claim that he hasn't shared in the profits of Mr. Beast Burger, BDC says it transferred the shares into his account on March 28, 2022. BDC says that Beast Investments tried to obtain a larger share of the brand with proposals in November 2022, February 2023, and June 2023, but VDC apparently rejected all proposals as unreasonable and unacceptable. The company claims that these rejections prompted Beast Investments and Donaldson to turn on the brand. Quote, frustrated by their inability to extract a new deal more favorable to defendants, on March 30th, 2023, Defendants Counsel sent a letter to plaintiffs fabricating several alleged breaches of the agreement. So VDC's first cause of action is for breach of contract and argues that Jimmy failed to make personal appearances, refused to attend important production sessions to make marketing materials, failed to promote the brand on social media, purposefully made untruthful and misleading statements, denied the company access to the brand's social media accounts, and disparaged the brand's products and services. VDC also claims that Donaldson failed to form the jointly owned company for the brick-and-mortar business, that he failed to promote it, and that he failed to use good faith, commercially reasonable efforts to negotiate and finalize the transaction documents. And VDC says that Donaldson violated the non-compete, non-solicitation provision of the agreement by, quote, enticing away, persuading, and/or attempting to persuade clients, customers, suppliers, marketing partners, and other vendors to discontinue their relationship with VDC and go elsewhere. VDC also claims that Mr. Beast breached the covenant of good faith and fair dealing and engaged in tortious interference with contractual relations by making media posts that were intended to tarnish the Beast Burger brand. So with that out of the way, let's get to the meat of this matter. I lied, there are a lot more puns coming. Now, each party in a contract is responsible for fulfilling its obligations under the contract. When a party fails to perform its obligations under a contract, this is called a breach of contract. And there are entire classes on this in law school, but generally speaking, to terminate a contract, the breach of the contract has to be material to that contract itself. And here, one of the most interesting issues is whether bad reviews, tarnishing a brand, and potentially a lack of quality control can be considered a material breach. Mr. Beast says that VDC's main obligation under the contract was to serve decent enough food, and that it breached this condition by serving terrible food, which doesn't look good for him and all the rest of his brands. VDC's counter-argument is that the company factually did not serve terrible food.
Wow. So you've got beautiful smash patties.
And it claims that the Mr. Beast Burger ghost kitchens were a massive success that resulted in 1,700 participating locations. VDC argues that this is a better metric for judging performance than some random bad reviews from customers. And the company also argues that even if the food was substandard, that wasn't a material breach, especially since quality control is difficult when they're dealing with more than 1,000 individual restaurants. Now, adding complication, these cases were filed in New York, where state law implies a covenant of good faith and fair dealing in every contract. And under this contract, neither party to a contract can do anything which has the effect of destroying or injuring the right of the other party to receive the fruits of the contract. And here Mr. Beast is effectively arguing that serving inedible food obviously violates the covenant of good faith and fair dealing.
We'll test your meat. If it contains human flesh,
So what'll you be doing in RuneScape tonight?
Probably
then your
construction,
restaurant
mostly.
will be closed.
Well,
Oh,
VDC
nice
is
couple, huh?
arguing that trying to torpedo the relationship through social media is also a breach of the covenant of good faith and fair dealing. Now, unfortunately, we don't have the two contracts at issue here, so we can't evaluate whether food quality would be considered a material breach, and neither the complaint or the countersuit cites the contractual language about whether damage to reputation would be a material breach. Now, almost always when you're talking about a breach of contract, if you're talking about damages, you're talking about money. Someone breaches a contract, you might be entitled to the monetary value of the damage that they've caused. And here, proving damages might be challenging for Mr. Beast, because so far the only damages that are outlined are reputational. But if it really is the case that VDC was doing a terrible job and not providing any quality control and really focused on the high-margin ghost kitchen business at the expense of building out the brick-and-mortar business, you can understand why terminating the contract and allowing Mr. Beast to form a relationship with some other restaurant proprietor who can do quality control and can actually open brick and mortar stores would be a huge win. And on the other hand, if VDC is correct that it's not a breach of the contract to serve terrible food and not have quality control over all the different ghost kitchens, and it was in fact improper for Mr. Beast to try to terminate the contract itself, then they would be probably entitled to whatever the value of that contract was in terms of its profits over a reasonable period of time. And VDC is suing for $100 million, which, as longtime legal eaglets know, It's just a made-up number that will have to be verified with actual data because you can make up whatever damages you want in your complaint or your countersuit. So we don't know how this litigation will play out, either factually or legally. We don't have all of the facts, and we don't have all of the law in terms of the contract that binds the parties here. Both sides could have legitimate arguments. If nothing else, this is a cautionary tale for any creators out there who want to start their own businesses. You kind of need to control the quality of the product that's being put out there, otherwise it could hurt your brand. Now, even if Mr. Beast Burger burgers are terrible, you can still enjoy a delicious home-cooked meal, which is easier than ever with today's sponsor, HelloFresh. Because with HelloFresh, you can make it exactly how you want it, whether you want it like a Mr. Beast Burger or...
I have defeated a big lizard. I am the greatest.
Crystal Lizard. Grammy-quam, Grammy-quam.
The heck?
What if your quam were grimy?
Sounds unfortunate.
Fire giants? How about freaking not that many? $157 trolls. Okay, we'll just sit on that for a little bit. We'll kill some trolls later. Ooh.
What?
You need to make more noises, more home improvement noises.
Hmm.
That's how you win.
I don't think that's relevant to winning at all, actually.
Bah, bah, bah. Let me grab construction outfit. Well, actually, let's go ahead and make 1,000 more planks. Why not?
This guy's a plank maniac.
Yeah. We don't quite need 1,000, but. That, and we need the Drakon's metal, yes. Drakon's metal, yes. Wear it. Wear it. Grab my money. Grab my plank. Grab my wood. Grab my wood! Grab my wood. Earth altar. Walking.
Touch the darkness within me.
Touch. It's me playing Tears of the Kingdom. Touch.
Hmm.
Wonder what the vampires think about me just like popping in every 20 seconds with a handful of planks, and by a handful I mean 30, balancing 30 planks in my arms.
Right. They think you must be stopped.
Well, they can't stop me. I've killed everyone to come against me, even though they killed all my friends. They didn't kill me. Suck it, vampires. Well, actually, don't suck it, because you can't. I'm too powerful.
Yeah, be right back real quick.
Hey y'all!
Oh wow, are those Target exclusive Lowe's beans?
Don't tell anyone, but Lowe's gets them from Dillard's.
But I can only get these ones here. I knew I made the right decision coming here instead of urgent care.
Me too.
Say, got any more reasons to keep shopping here?
Well, we can never sell sneakers for Xbox.
I shop at Kohl's now. Are you looking for a reason to shop at Walmart? Well, maybe this'll help. The retailer exclusive. Funny little tactic used by many a company that's oftentimes beneficial to both parties. The store gets a unique item available nowhere else, forcing you to go there to buy it, while the company offering said product has somebody willing to sell their dog shit product. It's perfect! Well, it is until you realize you gotta go to GameStop. Some of the earliest examples of store exclusives can be traced all the way back to the SNES days at Blockbuster. The movie rental store, everybody acts like they'd love for it to come back, but wouldn't go to it more than once if it did. Video games became a popular item to rent here, with many titles getting more traction this way compared to standard retail. So, maybe if you weren't optimistic on your game selling all too well, you can make a deal with Blockbuster, advertise it as a Blockbuster rental exclusive, and make more money that way. Oh, I found a nickel, Mr. Nuts. Damn it, such a wide breadth of titles exclusive to Blockbuster. Eek the Cat, and more. The most iconic ones, however, were the different versions of pre-existing games, like Final Fight Guy. See, the original SNES version of the arcade game Final Fight lacked the character Guy, so here in Final Fight Guy, you can play as Guy. This was originally a standard release in Japan, which is why over here, for its more limited run, it retains a lot of the Japanese box's style, proudly stating it's direct from Japan, alongside being a Blockbuster exclusive. This never made sense as a wide release over here, considering how it's the exact same game as Final Fight on SNES, just with one of the characters replaced with Guy. But as a store exclusive, why the hell not? Especially as a rental. You can just grab this for the weekend and discover what a guileless childhood isn't like. You also got Clay Fighter Tournament Edition as a Blockbuster exclusive, which wasn't really much more than a less glitchy, more accessible version of the original. Thank Christ less people could play it. But then we have the original titles, games you couldn't dream of picking up anywhere else. Mr. Nuts, Eek the Cat, and Ren and Stimpy Fire Dogs. Wait a second, weren't there 4 horsemen? These are genuinely some of the most who fucking cares kind of games. It's no wonder why they were rental exclusives. Because who would buy them? Blockbuster had a few other games heavily linked to them in this era, though they weren't exclusive to them. Titles like the Star Fox Super Weekend and Donkey Kong Country Competition cartridges are oftentimes considered Blockbuster exclusives, though while they were used during competitive events at Blockbuster, they were actually offered later through Nintendo Power Magazine. So these aren't Blockbuster exclusives. This is, bitch. My god, they went crazy in the PS1 and N64 era. Stunt Racer 64, Transformers Beast Wars Transmetals, NFL Blitz Special Edition, International Track and Field 2000. Hell, Daikatana was initially exclusive for a few months. Indiana Jones and the Infernal Machine was basically exclusive outside of being offered on LucasArts' online store in the year 2000, so it may as well have been. It's like if you went to Blockbuster, you were playing games you couldn't play anywhere else. I'm going to Family Video. The biggest title here was definitely Clay Fighter Sculptor's Cut. Yep, the only way to play the definitive version of Clay Fighter 63 1/3 was through Blockbuster. Want to play as Lockjaw Pooch? More than anything! Well, clear your weekend because they gotcha! And nowadays, due to this game's excruciatingly limited retail presence,
Alright, one more stamina bar worth.
later down the line, we got
wait,
Freestyle Street Soccer on GameCube and
forgot to
Xbox,
put my thing away.
and a handful of standalone expansion packs for Outlaw Golf and Volleyball. Wait, do you hear that? It's you giving a shit. Wait. There it is. Yeah, as early as we can go, I think we can already see the point of store exclusives here. Does this have market potential? Well, let's see. This was where already developed and produced games that nobody wanted came to die, with the faint hope somebody would consider renting them for a weekend. Indiana Jones and the Infernal Machine is probably the only game here I'd question. I feel like that would have done fine out in the real world, but no, instead, it's stuck here with the nosebleeds. Now, thankfully, not all retailer exclusives were as dire as these, but they're just as dumb. Ratatouille on the original Xbox, exclusive to GameStop. The gamers won. Listen, this one sounds weird initially, but then you get a reality check. Alright, so this game released in June of 2007. The Xbox 360 launched in 2005. The original Xbox was discontinued in 2005 and always targeted a more mature and hardcore audience. This game was coming to every goddamn platform ever made already, but nobody was buying original Xbox games anymore, and nobody is also not interested in movie tie-in kids games. So, this version of the game probably had the least going for it at the time. Now, canceling it wouldn't have been a huge deal. Number of kids who only had this console in 2007 dying to live a day in Ratatouille shoes? I mean, they must be out there. So just releasing it at GameStop? Sure. I feel like GameStop is the store you make super niche core experiences exclusive to, whereas Ratatouille would fit better at like a TJ Maxx. But could you really sleep at night if the Xbox port of a game with 10 other versions didn't release? Well, it could, but keep in mind, I'm deranged. So thank you, GameStop, for making sure I could buy Ratatouille for Xbox. Well, it could, but keep in mind, I'm deranged. And GameStop really pulled through for us with this one. Wait, is that another game in need? GameStop, oh god, do your magic! Xenoblade Chronicles. This game had one hell of a road to launch here in North America. Originally it was supposed to, with no caveats. It got a trailer at E3 2009 titled Monado, Beginning of the World. Then, exactly, not a damn peep. It launched in Japan in June of 2010, eventually released in Europe, fully translated to English a year later, all while Nintendo of America was busy elsewhere. Listen, man, 2011 to 2012 was a rough era for the Wii. Sure, Skyward Sword and Kirby's Return to Dreamland release. That's great, sweetie. Please get this thing off my porch. Very light release schedule. That felt like a prime time for a critically acclaimed open world RPG to show its stuff. Okay, so nowadays, most games Nintendo publishes get a worldwide release, but back then I was genuinely concerned we weren't gonna get Kirby's Epic Game. Yeah, Xenoblade isn't the most mainstream game out there, but for fuck's sake, that same year, they had no problem publishing Spirit Camera over here. Their resistance to put this game out in North America was so confusing. Fans came together to form Operation Rainfall, an initiative to urge Nintendo to release this alongside The Last Story and Pandora's Tower stateside. 3 games that were already in English. They were coming to Europe, their work was already done, they just had to print the discs. Nintendo of America's response? Don't you guys have passports? They said they had no plans to release any of the games at the time. That would quickly change, as in December of 2011, it was announced Xenoblade Chronicles would be hitting North America in April of 2012. Only at GameStop. You know what got a wide release here in the States? Yeah, thank God. If I bring this anywhere near a Target, I'll be shot. And later down the line, GameStop took wind to the fact that the game was going for higher prices on the secondhand market, thus took new stock they had, opened them up, and sold them used for $90 so they can make a far greater profit. Damn! And things were going so smoothly! Well, if you're gonna make a game exclusive anywhere, GameStop makes the most sense. Regardless of any funny business they pull, they're the video game store. Which is probably why they felt they had what it takes to release their own games. Introducing Game Trust Games, GameStop's publishing brand. Now, GameStop won't have to wait around for a Nintendo to throw them a bone with a game they don't want to take a risk on. They can lure in customers themselves with their own store exclusives. Must-have titles you can't buy anywhere else. This is the Game Trust lineup. I'll take the spider. Yeah, none of these really spoke to me, though. To be fair, there are some big names behind these titles. Game Trust's first game, Song of the Deep, was developed by Insomniac. Then Tequila Works did The Invisible Hours, Ready at Dawn did Deformers, Frozen Byte did Has-Been Heroes. These were well-known, beloved developers responsible for GameStop-published pickups. Yeah, none of these were particularly great. They're all pretty nothing games, and in the case of Deformers, I mean that literally. The only reason anybody cared about Has-Been Heroes was because it was one of the very few physical Nintendo Switch games available in its launch month. The only reason anybody cared about Song of the Deep was because it was developed by Insomniac, and the only reason anybody cared about The Invisible Hours was because they felt bad nobody else did. Doesn't really seem like these made GameStop a force to be reckoned with in the publishing sphere, as this was basically all they did. It makes sense to stick to what you know. Nothing. Just take exclusives when they offer themselves to you, like Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 on PS4 and Xbox One. That was GameStop exclusive. For some reason. This launched when the new game Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite was announced, so maybe they limited this to focus on that title instead? Why even release this in the first place? Around the same time, Secret of Mana on PlayStation 4 was made available only at GameStop. Thank God, I'm safe here. What a dumbass this was. So they remade a few classic Final Fantasy games in 3D on the Nintendo DS. This felt like they were trying to do that with Secret of Mana, not on the Nintendo DS 10 years later. This would have been far more accepted back then, but on the PS4, this just looks and feels so damn cheap. And that's not to say it's a bad remake, but rather, it's just kinda there. You know what that means, right? Oh! It's a bad remake. Tenchu Darkseeker was exclusive to GameStop, naturally. Okay, well, these were both more so specialty stores. What about retailers that aren't really focused on video games? What games were exclusive to those?
Hey, what do you got that GameStop doesn't?
You.
What does it take to be a Target exclusive video game? The will to be. Why was Cars the video game on PC exclusive? Because we had to take dicks down a notch. This store easily has some of the most random games associated with it. Paws and Claws Pet Vet for Game Boy Advance, Let's Ride Friends Forever for Game Boy Advance, Enchanted Once Upon Andalasia for Game Boy Advance, High School Musical Livin' the Dream for Game Boy Advance. Never mind, pattern is wrong. Seems seems like around 2006 to 2008, Target struck some deals to offer kids games on aging platforms. You can see some of these have a Plays on DS sticker. And with many of these having Nintendo DS equivalents that were much more widely released, it's obvious they didn't want to take too much of a risk with the GBA versions. But Target will!
Oh my god, you guys are offering a bullet for me?
That's why the shirt's red.
Then you have the more modern exclusives, such as Active Life Outdoor Challenge for Nintendo Switch, and of course, the SimCity preview disc. Not a demo for SimCity, no. It's a disc with trailers on it and a coupon. It might actually be better than the game. But we can't talk Target exclusives without mentioning this. The Target exclusive Game Boy Advance Special Edition system. What's special about it?
Rematch?
Yep, it just has the Target logo plastered on the front. That's it. Though there was a red version, which is definitely more specialized specifically to Target. These are about as retailer exclusive as you can get. I only say that because I'm terrified what further looks like. Why would you want the name of the store you bought your system from permanently scarred on it? And it's not even a specialized shop like the Nintendo store or something. I buy bread from here. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't find this stupidly charming and novel. I mean, the Target Game Boy Advance AutoZone Cheese Nips. Special edition systems seem pretty well suited for this practice. Instead of developing a whole ass game just to sell it at Menards, you can just smack a paint job on a console and boom! My loyalty has been rewarded. Sticking with the Game Boy Advance, the SpongeBob SquarePants and Pikachu Game Boy Advance SPs were exclusive to Toys R Us. Two pretty damn popular characters to make exclusive systems for just one retailer. I gotta say, I'm impressed. I assume other stores got pretty cool exclusives as well, so let's make that assumption a reality. Walmart got the Lagoon Edition, the most popular store in existence. What do they get? An advertisement for Toys R Us. Holy shit! The amount of Toys R Us exclusives is insane. The Pet Adoption Center, Bratz Babies, Baby Life, Fairyland Melody Magic, Cookie Shop, Moto Racer DS, Beyblade Metal Masters, Pets Horses Family. Now, Pets Horseshoe Ranch, you can buy that shit anywhere. DS games were churned out like butter. That's fast. So, of course, while many of these were Toys R Us exclusive, they were cookie cutter, copy and paste type of games you could find a million alternatives for elsewhere. Making them exclusive made them actually noteworthy in some way. But here's one that don't need that exclusivity to stand out. Soul Bubbles, a legitimately solid puzzle game that takes great advantage of the DS's capabilities. It's a shame because it feels like nobody played or has even heard of this game. I think a GameStop exclusivity would have worked out a lot better because I don't think the people who would actually appreciate this game were buying their games at Toys R Us. For example, this is Sneakers, Xbox exclusive extraordinaire. You know, Microsoft chose this to be one of the launch titles for the system in Japan instead of Halo. Well, why wasn't Halo a Toys R Us exclusive then? Sneakers is one of those press X to check this rat games. 30 minutes, 30 rats. Go! This was created to be a technical showcase for the original Xbox, touting mice fur as a key feature. And what it all boiled down to? A 28 on Metacritic and one less reason to go to Toys R Us. They definitely had it better when it came to exclusive systems. The Pikachu Nintendo 64, the gold Nintendo 64, the black Game Boy Advance? Really? Out of all colors to make retailer exclusive. Oh, no poos. I just wish any of these designs screamed Toys R Us. I mean, this is a toy store for crying out loud. Give me a Game Boy that looks like I bought it from one. Thank you for having such a hefty trough of exclusive products at their store. The Toys R Us sure didn't care what they were. Honestly, I feel like Walmart one-upped them with one game alone. Chibi Robo Park Patrol for the Nintendo DS. Now, I'm not saying this is the only Walmart exclusive game, but there sure aren't as many out there as the other stores. And while Toys R Us had sneakers, Walmart had a video game. I don't blame Nintendo for partnering with Walmart to make this an exclusive, but I do heavily question why they kept making Chibi Robo games if they never believed in them achieving success. Chibi Robo was a super late GameCube release, then out of nowhere, a sequel successful when the DS was announced, when there was barely any benefits to doing so outside of giving the series another shot on a more popular platform. And now there were none. Most of the video game exclusivity you'd find at Walmart and countless other stores are the retailer bonuses. Now, these aren't games that are exclusive in of themselves, rather, you get a little something extra for choosing Game Mart, because nobody else did. There's a lot of the box art you're obscuring just to tell me I get character decals. Character decals in French. Has this stuff ever persuaded anybody to buy from a different store? If anything, it makes me want to stay away. I don't want my copy of Country Dance 2 to remind me where I bought it. That's the thing. Almost every instance of this practice involves this being printed on the cover art. Why isn't it just a sticker or something? Feels like it's some cheap marketing tactic. Now, every time you pull the game off your shelf... Oh yeah, I almost forgot. Walmart. However, with the constant rise of online shopping, store exclusivity is becoming a whole lot more popular in completely new ways. Online retailers like Amazon are pretty solid choices for exclusives, considering more niche experiences were probably going to be mostly bought online anyways. Stuff like Gravity Rush Remastered and the Sega Genesis Mini 2. But then we have digital marketplaces with the Epic Game Store. To the PC! Pretty much every PC gamer has always used Steam to buy their digital games and access their libraries. Then comes the Epic Game Store with a lot of cash to give to every publisher to make their release at the very least a timed exclusive to their marketplace. Now, what does that mean for the consumer? Now you have to use different apps for different games. Is this some kind of atrocity? No, it's just kinda dumb. And even worse, it makes you feel like an idiot for complaining about it. Oh, I gotta use a different store to buy this game? What the hell was I just doing? To be fair, this is like going from one store with all the amenities and products you could ask for to a store that is just a worm. So it's completely understandable to be annoyed, but hey, it's good to have competition. Much like it's good to have a Whopper right about now. It isn't, but it brings us to the retailer exclusive to end all retailer exclusives, the Burger King games. Do these count? Well, I can buy things that aren't food at Burger King. I'm making this a retailer. Xbox games you could only get at BK for $3.99 a pop. A big bumpin' pocket bike racer and sneaking. I gotta admit, this was always really cool. Honestly, one of the best fast food toy ideas of all time. A full-fledged Xbox game? Hell, one of 3! That's amazing! And then you play the games.
Listen, I know you want me to come to the store every day and go, hey, all Scott here, I'll take the usual, and you slide an air down the conveyor belt. But you don't need to make games exclusive to do that. You can just offer quality services and products, and I'll show up. You don't need to make cars on PC exclusive to make me show up at your store. Damn.
Well, if offering better quality and services will bring you in, there's only one thing I can do. I will find the kid who played Ratatouille on Xbox.
Will you also still offer cars on PC?
Yes.
Okay. It is Box to the Right season. And what a box to ring it in. You know, come to think of it, I've noticed a steep rise in Wii U's being used for not Wii U. So what's the point of this thing outside of collateral damage?
Well, I'm glad I asked. The Wii U has been a part of my life for as long as I can remember. Especially when I don't consider the first 15 years of my life canon. So what better way to make up for it than by spending the next 15 years of my life explaining it? Hey, all Scott here. And this was what I was born to do. Nintendo is the most beloved and iconic video game company of all time. They've created not only some of the most well-known video games out there, but the consoles you play them on as well. The Nintendo Entertainment System, Super Nintendo Entertainment System, Nintendo 64, GameCube, Wii. What the f*** is that? Nintendo Switch. Oh, I'm sorry. You must be asking, what the f*** is a what the f*** impotence? This is the Wii U. Nintendo's 6th home console and worst performing system of all time. There are some bad eggs here and there they released, like Virtual Boy and Game Boy Micro, but those felt more like Nintendo looked over at their friends going, hey, check this out. They were little offshoots, not necessarily the next generation system the Wii U was. And Nintendo obviously expected it to mimic the success of their previous endeavors, and it couldn't even mimic the failures.
Yes, I am a veteran of the Wii U generation, and unlike other people, I supported Nintendo throughout the whole thing to an embarrassing degree. And what did I get for all of it? I haven't been able to eat out for the past 6 years.
The Wii U was one of the first consoles I consumed literally everything about from start to finish. All the news, reviews, updates, previews, rumors, leaks, the games themselves. I may have gotten a C in calculus, but I definitely played Dr. Luigi. There I was there for the Nintendo 3DS's entire lifespan, but we're talking
Fashion one.
consoles here. And concerning all of their systems before the Wii U, I wasn't nearly as attentive with them news-wise. Hop online to read up on them every now and then.
Perfect.
With the Wii U, let's just say I learned to define my priorities. Might as well put all that info I retained to good use. I may have
Give me
talked
this Eric
about the Wii
Slade,
U with
bastard.
this many times before, but that was my Peach Fuzz era of Wii U talk. I'm ready for a
Oh, south,
big boy
south, south,
discussion
south.
because, let's be honest, not a lot of people know about the Wii U. You take the 13 or so million Wii U's sold and subtract that by, what's the general population of the world? Yeah, this is the number of people who haven't been disappointed.
Well, that's all going to change. Because if I'm depressed, it's because you aren't too. This is a console I could talk about until the end of time. But I'll settle for 6 hours. Let's talk about Nintendo's fucking garbage.
You may think this is my EKG. No, it's also the history of Nintendo video game console sales. We should both get that checked out. Because as groundbreaking as Nintendo's first major home console, the NES, was in 1985, selling over 60 million units, each system they released afterwards sold less and less, with their fourth platform, the GameCube, selling a measly 21 million. Not all of these were failures, but with the gradual introduction of competitors Sega, Sony, and Microsoft, Nintendo was not only losing market share, they no longer had the most popular console on the block, with the Nintendo 64 taking second place in its generation, and the GameCube taking third. Now, the underperformance of these systems can be chalked up to all kinds of factors. They were too mom-approved. It didn't matter if they had the most powerful hardware and a capable controller, all at an affordable price, because damn it, I can't to this. In addition to numerous stupid-ass choices Nintendo made with their products, no CD or DVD playback on GameCube, barely any online multiplayer capabilities, the amount of stuff developers could fit on the GameCube discs and Nintendo 64 cartridges paled in comparison to the competition. So at the end of the day, what Nintendo took away from their dwindling sales was how just making a new game console that was simply more powerful and made to compete with the Xbox and PlayStation wasn't gonna work for them. They needed to do something different, something that made them stand out from everything else and defy what it meant to be a video game console. They weren't going to be competing against the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. They were going to be competing against Grandpa's insulin pump. The Wii was Nintendo's 7th home console and at the time became their most successful, selling over 100 million units. How did that happen?
Okay.
Instead of cramming new, high-end tech to display next-generation graphics in this puppy, Nintendo opted to fuck up. The Wii was pretty much Nintendo repackaging the GameCube again with a few enhancements. Well, if Nintendo
When's
did
Bloodborne
set out
PC
to
without
do
any
the others,
needless graphical
they
remaking?
succeeded. But hey, Nintendo
Never.
didn't need fancy-ass HD graphics because they were able to sell the Wii on the controller alone. The Wii Remote, bringing motion control to the masses. Now, they weren't the first to utilize this functionality, but they were the first to make it accessible and seamless. Sony put out the iToy for the PlayStation 2 before, but there was nothing to set up with the Wii Remote. There was nothing to learn. It was so natural. Everybody could use it. Okay, well, not everybody. Because of this, the Wii appealed to a whole new audience, the world. Couple that with how affordable it was due to using old technology, classic Nintendo franchises appearing on the console, brand new casual titles taking advantage of the unique controller, and you have a recipe for... Yeah, the Wii was insanely popular, but I'd argue it wasn't healthy popularity. It was almost more of a fad, something everybody had to have for a few years. You couldn't get a Wii for the longest time. They were always out of stock, which made people who weren't even interested in the damn thing thinking they had to have it. And a lot lot of the casual audience got hooked on the pack-in title Wii Sports, maybe bought a few more games outside of that, and then just used the console to stream Netflix on. The core gamers, there was definitely stuff that appealed to them on Wii, but it just wasn't enough, or there was a big little asterisk on them, like, oh, here's the return of one of your retro favorites, Donkey Kong Country. Now with mandatory motion controls, many core fans felt burned by this system. It wasn't powerful enough, it didn't have great online multiplayer, many games that would have been awesome shoved so-so motion control down your throat. So the casual audience wasn't reliable supporting the console long term. The core audience lost interest in the Wii around the time Nintendo pushed Wii Music as their big holiday title. Everybody was miserable. Listen, I love the Wii, as do millions, but it's always been a flawed system. It may have appealed to everybody, but it didn't satisfy them, which is why near the end of the Wii's life around 2010 to 2011, many casual owners shifted over to iPhones, iPads, and iPod Touches to get their gaming fix, and many core fans bought an Xbox 360 or PlayStation 3. People were losing interest in the Wii. So what did Nintendo do? Well, this makes more sense than Wii U. During the Wii era, there was constant discussion and speculation around Nintendo potentially releasing either a successor or a slight upgrade to the console, oftentimes referred to as Wii HD. Of course, something named this never happened. I'm naming my kid this just to make it true. But it's obvious something along these lines would have helped the Wii maintain relevancy later in its life. By 2010, this system was looking rough, and not including an HDMI port was becoming less and less acceptable with each passing year. Though it was at E3 2010 that then Nintendo president Satoru Iwata commented on the idea of a Wii successor, claiming it would only happen when they ran out of ideas. They never said they wouldn't run out of ideas soon. Iwata later clarified that, of course, Nintendo was working on a new system. They pretty much start thinking about the next thing when the next thing comes out right after the next thing. He was primarily addressing the idea of Nintendo creating a new console simply to make a more powerful HD system. That just wasn't going to happen. There needed to be a reason to make that new platform, to be able to do things you weren't able to do before. Finally, a reason for Mario Party 10 to be.
Enter 2011, the year when everything started to change. When years started to enter. 2010 was actually a really solid year for the Wii. We got Super Mario Galaxy 2, Donkey Kong Country Returns, Kirby's Epic Yarn. That felt like a bit of a comeback for the system. And moving into the next year, I had high expectations for what Nintendo was about to do next. I am sad.
In the spring of that year, right after Nintendo's latest portable, the Nintendo 3DS launched, rumors started to pop up of their next home console, though these actually had some merit. They weren't just some industry analysts looking at a Wii, an HDMI cord, and going, gee, this was different. This was something. This was a mistake. Project Cafe was the code name floating around. Apparently it would be HD and have specs that were on par with the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3, with an announcement coming at E3 2011 and releasing in late 2012. Unlike previous rumors, this one was backed by numerous sources like IGN. If IGN says it's true, Nintendo commented on the rumors by simply saying, stay tuned. The official E3 Twitter account was hamming it all up. It's obvious something was gonna happen. And with more info coming out pretty much every hour. Now it was more powerful than the 360 and PS3. No, wait, well, actually, it's just slightly more powerful than an Xbox 360. A console that released 6 years prior.
Say what you will about Lupus, but Lupus with a hint of lemon is better.
It was apparently backwards compatible with the Wii and GameCube, plus compatible with an all-new, very original controller, which could have meant anything. Say what you will, the controller's original. It quickly came out that this new console's controller would house an HD screen on it. I can barely see shapes on this thing. Yeah, out of all the rumors, this little tidbit was one of the most consistent. In fact, the controller was gonna have some kind of screen on it, which was a completely new concept, even for Nintendo. We had the Sega Dreamcast, and on the GameCube, you could connect the Game Boy Advance to control some games. But this wasn't just a cute little side thing for Project Cafe. This is what the whole damn thing would be based around. I mean, the size of the screen was rumored to be 6 inches. You don't just forget 6 inches in your hands. This mock-up whipped up by IGN is burned into my mind. Just a weak Classic Controller Pro with a display on top. The idea was 100% intriguing, but when it came down to actual concepts it could be used with, I mean, most of them were already done before with the Nintendo DS, using the bottom touchscreen to view a map or quick select items. Multiplayer games would definitely benefit from the extra screen. You could do all kinds of things with that. Multiplayer player could see things the others couldn't, they wouldn't have to put up with split screen in some instances, and two players could each get their own dedicated display. I remember hearing fans come up with a few ideas on their own, like in Mario Kart, use the controller as a rear view
Dang it,
mirror.
they're gonna be too
But
bad.
at what cost, man? I mean, these were all cool enough concepts, but a screen that big on a wireless controller?
Action wonderful 101.
Make it or break it. It's not like how the Wii Remote was integral to making Wii Sports the game it was. You don't need a second screen for any of these things. It may make them a little better, but not spending $150 on a controller better.
When's
Hey,
Wonder
this was the
Monkey?
Nintendo we were talking about. They must be
Ain't
doing a
real.
crazy controller like this for a reason. Surely they wouldn't base their new console around
Why
a
did
game
you
that
lie about
they
Wonder
know how to
Monkey?
properly
I didn't
utilize.
read you.
Why,
Either way,
Bob?
this was my life for the next 2 months. Coming home from school.
Why,
researching new
Spongeman?
sites,
I didn't
possibly be
read it.
passing off as Wii 2 updates today. This report stated Nintendo just wrapped up the core promotional materials for Project Cafe's appearance at E3, and they asked for hands. Good hands at that.
I think this controller's gonna use hands.
But hey, who knows? It might not even be Project Cafe. There was another rumor about this new console being codenamed Project Butterfly. The gimmick of this console being you can physically upgrade it over time by buying new expansions and add-ons to keep it technologically relevant. So a PC. What do you think the company that just made the Wii would do? A super powerful console that you'd never have to get rid of? You could just keep upgrading with better processors? Or funny screen controllers? Well, it didn't even matter anymore, because on a website Nintendo housed for developers and publishers, a number of URLs based on other Nintendo system codenames worked. Ones containing references to Nitro, the Nintendo DS codename, CTR, the 3DS one, and interestingly enough, Cafe was a valid URL, implying that, yes, we were f***ed. Later on, a header image on that same developer's website detailing Cafe support was uncovered, pretty much confirming that Project Cafe was the official codename for the device. The Project Butterfly community has never been at a lower point. So we pretty much knew the internal project name, but what about the final one? Wii 2 was the easiest to use at this stage, though Super Wii was a popular one. Other names that made the rounds included Stream, Feel, and Nintendo. The same people that wanted the console to just be called Nintendo complained that the Wii U name was too confusing.
Don't call a dog a cat, call him what I want. Not a dog.
On April 25th, 2011, Nintendo officially announced that they were indeed working on a successor to the Wii system. It'll launch in 2012 and be playable at E3 2011 in just a few weeks. Satoru Iwata made it clear that while they weren't discussing details at the moment, the console would offer a new way to play games in the home.
So does ecstasy. It was all anybody could talk about in the Nintendo sphere until E3. Constant rumors and speculation as to what the hardware was, what games were coming to it. It was driving me crazy. I mean, what could it be? Disappointing.
Yeah, let's talk about this underwhelming crotch of a reveal. E3 2011. Nintendo held a conference on June 7th, where they opened with a gorgeous orchestra celebrating the past 25 years of The Legend of Zelda, building up to the release of Skyward Sword later that year. Went on detailing a handful of groundbreaking Nintendo 3DS titles that would define the handheld, such as Super Mario 3D Land, Mario Kart 7, Kid Icarus Uprising, and Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon. But not before shoving Iwata out on stage to tell us what he's gonna do in 5 minutes.
We are going to leave the full details for a little later this morning, but
Why not just kill me now? After some updates, then Nintendo of America president Reggie Fils-Aimé comes out on stage and says this.
there is one more order of business left for us today. To make a proper introduction to a new gaming companion.
I'm gonna be a dad. He goes on with the marketing shtick of talking about what it takes to be a new Nintendo system, saying how the Wii name made sense once you heard it. And I just knew he was gonna slip in the actual name of what Project Cafe was somewhere in this speech.
We knew the prevailing thought would be this. Yes,
And I went, oh my god, they're calling it the Wii Yes? No!
but could it also be a perfect fit just for you? And the answer to that question is an emphatic absolutely. In fact, we're so convinced of it that we put that pronoun right in the name. So today, welcome to the world of We, You.
This just in. What the f?
The name Wii U. Listen, I get it. Wii was an unconventional title that worked. As easy as it would have been to call the follow-up Wii 2, that was never gonna happen. Kid names are filling up quick. After that breakthrough success, Nintendo would have been out of their mind to not name their next console Wii something, which oddly enough would have been a better name. And Wii U, to be completely honest, I don't think it's a bad name in concept. In practice, it's egregious. Considering how the original
Enjoying a
Wii
nice
was
cuppa
like
after throwing some guy's furniture out.
all the way it
I'm
was,
checking this lady's bed right out the window as we speak.
also designed to appeal to the hardcore gamer, you, and keeping with unique spelling, I do think it's a sound name for a Wii sequel. The problem is, there are consequences to our actions. Because the name, was just a fraction of the problem with the Wii U reveal. Because just a few seconds afterwards,
This is the new controller for Wii U.
no, you applaud that, but when I my pants, it's a problem. Jesus! I mean, yeah, at the time, this was an impressive controller. Like, wow, look at how crazy this thing is. It's its own damn handheld. Rather than a lot of the concepts shared around online, this was more of an iPad with a controller surrounding it. But that's besides the point. Pay attention to the wording with the Wii U reveal. How they call it a gaming companion, announcing the controller before anything else. And throughout the rest of the press conference, barely showing the actual console, which basically looked like a refined Wii. Taking into account the Wii brand was home to so many accessories and games simply titled Wii blank, Wii Wheel, Wii Music, Wii Speak, Wii Motion Plus. These all say, hey, I work with the Wii. And it becomes so easy to see why nobody had a single damn clue what this was. It was completely justified to think, oh, this is just a controller you buy for the Wii, a system with a billion fancy extra controllers you could buy for it, including one that released the year prior by THQ that was a tablet controller titled U Draw. Do you see the issue here?
But hey, I'm just criticizing this reveal in hindsight. At the time, I knew it wasn't perfect. I knew it was bad. But I didn't care. I saw a fat-ass new controller by Nintendo with a bunch of junk crammed into it. I remember audibly gasping when it flew into view here. But was that because I pictured the possibilities? Or, ooh, shiny? Oh, I feel like you're underestimating my comprehension skills. Oh, pickles?
A trailer began. POV, your dad. Yeah, I wanted to be happy. You walk in on your son playing a new Super Mario Brothers game for Wii U that looks damn near identical to new Super Mario Brothers Wii.
That's my dad, all right.
But hey, you can keep playing the same game right on your controller. No TV needed. Plus do all kinds of other stuff with the new controller, as they called it. Draw on the new controller. Play only on the new controller. Use motion to control with the new controller. This trailer showed off 12 uses for the Wii U controller, some of which were pretty damn cool at the time. Throwing ninja stars from the pad to the TV.
You know, that might have been the only one that sold me.
Honestly, looking back, none of these necessarily wowed me outside of that demo. This was a pretty boring slew of ideas for such a bold new controller. None of these concepts were genuinely new. Browsing the web, video calls, sharing video to the TV. These are nice features to have on your console, but as some of the first features shown, my lord! You can play games just on the tablet, and you show, what, Othello? Wii Sports, but now using the new controller. Well, cool. I mean, yeah, this helps show the potential, but it doesn't really seem to be making Wii Sports better, just more complicated. Before, as the pitcher in Wii Sports Baseball, you just throw the ball. Now, you have to aim with the controller like this. Sure, I see the value in that. You can be more precise and tricky without the other player seeing, but at the end of the day, man, it's still just Wii Sports Baseball. Does it really need this? Same with golf. They showcase putting the controller on the ground, and it's like, cool, but is that necessary? Everything else about it is just Wii Sports Golf, so how is the controller benefiting me here? The game played fine before. Now I can see more of the world? You want to see more of the world? Just put a zoo live stream on screen. And then a new Wii Zapper with a spot to put a Wii U controller? Like, even if that actually released, you already know only 3 games would use it. But the trailer ends with a look at an HD Legend of Zelda.
Hey, look, don't touch.
Yeah, this wasn't a real game, just a demonstration of what Zelda would look like on the console, which was a real cheeseball move on Nintendo's part. You know why they did this. They were going for easy applause. Sure, it showcased the concept of having your inventory on the second screen, much like how a lot of DS and 3DS games work. But why not show that alongside a game you're actually making for the console? You know people get excited over Zelda, so you whip up a fake trailer for them to swoon over, which kind of undermines Skyward Sword. It's like, yeah, we got a new Zelda coming out, but wouldn't it be great if it looked like this instead? I don't know, I think this practice is just kind of corny these days, and helps to highlight just one of the myriad of problems with the Wii U's introduction to the public. After the trailer, Nintendo discussed the console for the remaining 30 minutes of the conference, basically telling us to imagine the possibilities. That's your job! Iwata says that Smash Brothers will come to both Nintendo 3DS and Wii U and work together in some way. Wait a second, were those words? Again, they're just going for easy claps. They have nothing to say, nothing to show. This tech demo of a bird is played, showcasing what kind of visuals the Wii U can produce in real time, which is just sort of misleading. Yeah, I don't doubt you created these visuals with Wii U hardware. The same goes for the Zelda demo. But no games for your platform are ever gonna look this good. I mean, those are actual games with a million things to take into account, running in real time. These are 1 minute long cutscenes. Of course you can get them to look this good. A couple of tech demos are discussed to be playable on the E3 show floor, which all ended up becoming full games or portions of games later down the line. And then, the first actual game to be announced for Wii U. LEGO City Stories.
Welcome to the future of gaming.
Why tout this as a big deal? The fact you have an exclusive LEGO game on your next system? It's a LEGO game. It would have come to your system regardless. Third parties are shown drooling over the platform via this sizzle reel. Games like Batman Arkham City, Assassin's Creed, Darksiders 2, Ninja Gaiden 3, and Tekken with some cute touchscreen functionality were announced. Of course, some games announced at E3 2011 actually never happened on Wii U, such as Dirt, Aliens Colonial Marines, Ghost Recon Online, and Metro Last Light. Though nothing not happening doesn't compare to Not Jack Dick, Electronic Arts appears on stage to set up an unprecedented partnership with Nintendo on Wii U.
Say we will, that is unprecedented.
And that was the Wii U's reveal at E3 2011. Ubisoft showed off a game they were working on exclusively for the Wii U called Killer Freaks from Outer Space on their own, and Nintendo later announced the next Pikmin game shifted development over to the console.
I mean, reading this back, they had to have known this was dog shit. Looking back at the Wii U's reveal, people were either confused or underwhelmed. Even me. I mean, I thought it was pretty cool, but I wasn't freaking out over the thing. This felt rushed. The biggest announcements were cheap. Here's HD Zelda that doesn't exist. Smash Brothers is coming. Just like the Rapture, nothing was far enough along for Nintendo to show anything too concrete. It was all conceptual, and the concepts themselves, while they had promise, weren't enough to carry a whole console. But of course you may be asking, what console? And Nintendo may be asking, where console? It wasn't there. The only time Nintendo showed the system was in the background and out of focus. And when the console already looked too similar to the Wii in focus, and when so many of the tech demos Nintendo showed required Wii remotes, this just in, that's a fucking Wii. I can't blame them. With the Wii U being playable at this event, many attendees were able to give it a try in its prototype form. Pretty similar to the final design with a few key differences. The analog sticks being circle pads, like on the 3DS, which I always found odd. Like, marketing this system as something hardcore gamers can get behind, and you're this vocal and nubby stick. Critics felt they were adequate to control games with, but questioned it at the same time. Like, yeah, these work, but why? Many walked away from the event thinking, that was okay. Nothing necessarily bad, but nothing to get excited about yet. Which I accepted. This was normal. Nintendo always announced their console with some basic details, and within the next year and a half before release, more and more info would be discussed. The info we all care about, which meant I wasn't prepared for what happened next. Nothing. Every event, presentation, interview, investors meeting, every and any opportunity Nintendo had to discuss Wii U from June 2011 to June 2012, they just didn't say anything. This year of Wii U news comprised of pretty much nothing but rumors, leaks, and some random developers' thoughts here and there, which often consisted of, it's pretty cool. Some would mention that Wii U has some killer features we don't know about yet. And we still don't know! Others would comment on how they'd like to see their games on the system, though oftentimes nothing would come of this. I don't get it. We got 2 World Wars, but not Far Cry 3 on Wii U. This was more likely. And a few designers were openly critical of the device, questioning if it could bring back the
the casual audience while capturing the hardcore. Noting the power of the console could be a problem. Many would say these people were being pessimistic, but even the developers that were excited for the Wii U were saying some funky stuff about it. Gearbox Software was constantly singing their praises about the system. Now, Aliens Colonial Marines on Wii U, it's delicious! But they said the Wii U was a great stopgap console, which proves they knew this thing wasn't lasting a whole ass generation. Crytek said they already had their junk running on Wii U, and later said they didn't even have development kits. Producer of the Mario series, Yoshiaki Koizumi, wasn't informed on all the Wii U details before its unveil.
Why would he need to?
It felt like most developers didn't really know what to think of this thing. They were hesitant to say anything good or bad. It was obvious they didn't want to count Nintendo out, but it was also obvious this wasn't meeting their needs. And the developers who were super jazzed on Wii U, singing its praises non-stop, they look a little weird now, don't they?
My dog just shit in the house, and it was brilliant. It saved my marriage.
Nintendo later admitted that they could have done a better job unveiling the system. They promised to re-unveil it at E3 2012, alongside the fact that the controller would feature NFC technology to scan credit cards and accessories like Toy Life figures. This was the only news we got after 6 months. Seems that Nintendo was looking to drum up some hype. They obviously wanted to focus their marketing efforts on the Wii and Nintendo 3DS for 2011's holiday season, and I don't blame them for that. However, at that point, why reveal the Wii U as early as they did? You sorta killed most interest in the Wii at that point, but in return, you didn't have any news for people interested in the Wii U for nearly a year. So being a Nintendo fan during this era sorta just felt like you were in purgatory. Something on the horizon to look forward to, and I don't know why I should be. However, by spring of 2012, more and more news was coming out, really getting me excited at what Nintendo had in store for us. An internal trailer for Rayman Legends was leaked, showing extensive Wii U exclusive features, including NFC support. Shigeru Miyamoto confirmed Pikmin and a new 2D Mario for Wii U would be shown at E3. A photo of an updated Wii U controller was leaked, showcasing actual thumbsticks and new buttons. Rumors of a Metroid and Star Fox crossover spread around alongside a mature game called Acid Ghost by Nintendo starring Eminem. And there were apparently discussions that Nintendo would change the name of Wii U to Dear God Anything Else. Also would have been a better name. So it was easy to get excited. It was also easy to see some warning signs. Many third-party games that were being announced around this time would be confirmed for Wii U. And not just, oh, we'll see if it happens. No, it was just, it ain't coming. Former developers were open about expressing their disinterest in the system, with numerous sources reporting difficulties being had getting games to run in it optimally.
It was all up in the air at the time, right? When something bad about the Wii U was reported on it, something good was as well. There's so many emotions heading into E3 this year, but all signs were pointing towards this being a momentous event for the system. And Nintendo announced they would be holding 3 separate conferences during E3 this year. They must have so much news to share. This was going to be where the Wii U started to finally make some sense. And this was the last moment I felt hope.
E3 2012. Bob was riding on this one, and Nintendo knew that. Prior to their main press conference on June 5th, the presentation was held to get a lot of the dirty beats out of the way. The updated controller design was confirmed, alongside its name being the Wii U gamepad. The optional and more conventional Wii U Pro controller was revealed, but the big thing this event focused on was Miiverse. They presented this video featuring some Wii playing Wii U. This is what Nintendo thinks people who play games look like, everybody.
Joke's on you, I don't have facial hair.
He gets stuck in a zombie game and makes a post on Miiverse asking others for help. One of his friends notices while browsing a Miiverse app on his phone, though this gamer finds a random user and video calls them instantly to get some tips. Hi, I own a Wii U, I meet old men over the internet, and I can't play Far Cry 3. So Miiverse is a social media message board kind of deal built into the Wii U's infrastructure. You can make posts about the games you're playing, see what others are saying, and interact with them, drop pictures, react using emotions, with some titles incorporating Miiverse posts within the game. Could have said it nicer, though. This video was a huge indicator that Nintendo's messaging was already way off with this system. You're trying to convince core gamers that the Wii U is aimed at them when this is one of the first promotional videos you put out for it? A corny sitcom parody that features an adult playing Wii U, talking to an action figure, and acting all around pathetic?
Damn, I should buy a Wii U. I haven't been embarrassed in a while.
This Nintendo Direct was 30 minutes, but honestly could have been 10. I I assume this is what Nintendo considered the re-unveiling of Wii U to be, as a good chunk of this presentation was dedicated to describing the concept of the system, what the gamepad contributes to society, just re-explaining what Nintendo showed off a year prior. They teased a few seconds of new 2D Mario footage, and Miiverse was a pretty compelling idea, but this was always a dud of a presentation for me. Though they got the boring info out of the way, so now their E3 press conference should be nothing but pure excitement. Here it is!
You look nothing like your picture.
I wasn't happy. Nintendo's E3 2012 will go down as one of the most disappointing shows in the event's history. It wasn't bad, it was anything but exciting. Started off with Pikmin 3 getting a proper debut. You know, this game was confirmed years prior for the Wii, and after nothing for nearly half a decade, to see it resurface as one of the very first Wii U games was pretty special. This was our first major look at an official release by Nintendo in high definition, and it looked gorgeous. This showing alone proved to me that Nintendo was making the most of their jump to HD.
Oh yeah, Mario time!
The next game they showed was New Super Mario Bros. U, but only after going over everything they detailed in the pre-E3 Direct again. What was the point of the pre-E3 Direct then? We were already 20 minutes into the presentation by the time the second game shows up. And like, am I supposed to be impressed? Nintendo announced this as, you gotta have a Mario game at the launch of your new Nintendo system, right? Oh boy, you know it. This looked painfully bland. It just looked like that tech demo from last E3, New Super Mario Bros. Me, just polished up a little bit, which is what New Super Mario Bros. Me looked like, a polished up version of New Super Mario Bros. Wii, which looked like there's no hook with this one. Sure, they showed off a new power-up, baby Yoshis, and a fifth player using the gamepad, placing blocks wherever, but these weren't exciting additions. The Wii entry introduced simultaneous 4-player multiplayer. That changed everything. New Super Mario Bros. U looked like a new Super Mario Bros. Game. Everybody who was buying a Wii U was gonna buy it, but it wasn't like you had to have it, you know? Nintendo then moved into third-party stuff, focusing on Batman Arkham City Armored Edition. For 5 goddamn minutes, this thing released on other platforms 8 months ago.
That's a whole ass pregnancy!
Scribblenauts Unlimited, followed by a third-party sizzle reel showing off junk already announced at E3 2011. Though Mass Effect 3, Trine 2, and a real game, damn it, were revealed. We Fit You, Sing, which was a karaoke game, a small portion going over upcoming 3DS games, LEGO City Stories gets renamed to LEGO City Undercover, Ubisoft comes out to showcase Just Dance 4, yeah, that gets a whole ass demonstration. You feel the need to show me that, but Dad still won't show me how to change the oil in my car. Then their core titles, Zombie U, which was actually what evolved from the project Killer Freaks from Outer Space. They revealed this game at their own press conference the day before, but showed it off a bit more here alongside Rayman Legends getting a proper debut, plus all their other games. Yes, let's display all Wii U titles shown off during this presentation and eliminate games that were already released on other platforms or were in early form prior.
Classic. This is classic Talon Souls. What happened?
No, I got greedy. Went for the final hit on the Mimic.
Can you see the teeth, though?
He grabbed me and ate me. So yes.
Nice.
Buzz because whoever buzzes in fastest doesn't give a f about the Wii U.
I mean, I remember this being unbelievably deflating at the time, but rewatching it, it's even worse! What the hell was this? Nothing was exciting here. It was just stuff we already knew about, and not even exciting stuff we already knew about. And that grand re-unveiling Nintendo promise for the system amounted to them just explaining what it is again. I forgot Rabbids Land. Well, that changes everything. But that wasn't it for their E3 2012 presentation, as Nintendo closed out the event detailing the game Nintendo Land. For 15 minutes, it's not that deep. A collection of mini-games based around utilizing the Wii U gamepad. Nintendo pretty much introduced this as the Wii U equivalent to Wii Sports. This is a good thing to reveal, but the final thing you reveal? This isn't worthy of being the cherry on top or that final jaw-drop moment. This is something that should have been revealed earlier on in the press conference. Lay the foundation for what you can do with this controller, and then end the event with a big 3D Mario game. The next Zelda, next Metroid, a Pokemon for the system, Smash Brothers, Mario Kart, or really anything other than this. Digital fireworks? Oh my god, don't make me... What's the most egregious thing I can do right now? Don't make me buy a Wii U! Nintendo's third press conference that year was simply focused on 3DS software, so that whole 3 presentations nonsense was pointless. A third of each event was going over info we already knew about. There was little to no brand new announcements, no talk about price point, release date, launch titles, no real hook as to why you need a Wii U outside of it being the next Nintendo console. They didn't show anything bad, but they also pretty much showed nothing at all. While I was still looking forward to Wii U, I felt very little excitement after E3. I didn't think Nintendo gave me any reason to be excited. I mean, one of their big leading titles for the system was New Super Mario Bros. U, but they were also talking about New Super Mario Bros. 2 on the 3DS releasing that same year. So it's like, why were you expecting me to be excited about this one in particular? They look the damn same. It's just, this one's gonna cost me a few extra $100 to play. Weirdly enough, Nintendo could have shown far more during these events. On the E3 show floor, the game Project P100 was playable, a new action title developed by Platinum Games. A few weeks later, a Nintendo Direct was held, announcing the 3DS XL, the fact that Bandai Namco was developing the next Smash Brothers. Why not talk about these things at E3? After the disappointment of E3 2012, we were basically left in the dark again for the next few months until September, when Nintendo held a preview presentation detailing the upcoming launch. This was their last chance to explain why anybody should give a damn about Wii U, and guess what happened?
Okay.
The release date, November 18th. Wow, the week before Black Friday.
Deep Battle Axe.
Reserved for their big game and system releases that year. How is that day
What if your
even
Battle
a
Axe was extremely deep?
day in January is New Year's.
for
The
me.
price point? Yes, Nintendo announced 2 versions of the system. A white model with 8 gigabytes of internal storage plus just the necessities for $299.99, and a black model with 32 gigabytes and all kinds of junk thrown in for $349.99, most notably including a copy of Nintendo Land. The starting price of $299 felt about right, but was obviously far too high for what this console was supplying customers. During this holiday season, you could pick up an Xbox 360 with 250 gigabytes of internal storage, a few games included,
Nice helmet.
and a couple of extra bonuses
I need a
for
metal helmet.
$199.
I don't think it's metal.
Nintendo pushing the Wii U
No,
as
it's a
system
construction
those
hat.
interested in an Xbox 360 would be
I don't know what they're
satisfied
made
by?
out
Well,
of.
at that point, just
Very
buy an
thick
Xbox
plastic,
360.
I guess.
Definitely hurts because
Yeah, I wouldn't think RuneScape would have plastic though.
go for. I mean,
Look,
Nintendo
the
Land by
gods
itself
gave us
was
plastic or
$60,
something.
So you were getting a deal. But man, to want to buy that, you gotta already be willing to blow $299 on this thing. And I don't think anybody alive was. This event elaborated on many of the games shown off at E3, confirming many as launch titles or launch window releases. And what we saw here was far more compelling. New Super Mario Bros. U introduced some cool new modes. Project P100 was properly revealed as the wonderful 101, though they also had some announcements. Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate, support from Activision, which included Call of Duty Black Ops 2 as a launch title, and Bayonetta 2, a sequel to an incredibly M-rated hack and slash that only the diest of hearts cared about, that Nintendo was funding and publishing as a Wii U exclusive. Oh, bingo! A pretty good move to showcase Nintendo's commitment to a hardcore audience, though the biggest focus of this presentation was all about that general audience. Introducing Nintendo TV. That's V with a V. Basically an app on the Wii U that combines TV listings and streaming services to be your all-in-one destination when watching television. Want to watch a movie but don't know what service or channel it's on? Just pop open Nintendo TV and it'll tell you. A feature that was fairly ahead of its time, but was never that groundbreaking. I mean, it's nice to be able to just search on Apple TV or Roku the name of a movie and see what app it's on, but I can live without it. So the fact Nintendo and various news outlets considered it a killer feature, sure, another killer feature is the Wii U's effect on spiders. Honestly, this event was pretty good. I was fairly compelled by what was shown. This was genuinely exciting. And then the ad campaign began.
Damn it!
The first Wii U commercial featured a bunch of living rooms in boxes to dubstep, each showing different scenarios in which the gamepad is being used, none of which show the console in focus, and most show other people using Wii remotes. Did they learn anything from the initial reveal? This commercial screams how Nintendo had no real vision for this console. This wasn't an ad that made you think or stuck with you or was clever in any way. You could replace the Wii U with any tech product here, and this commercial would be the exact same. And ending with the tagline, "How you will play next?" I mean, it's fine, but that's a tagline anybody could come up with. Most Wii U ads just felt like an elaborate chart explaining everything the console can do. And some of them were just flat out charts. But that's whatever at this point. What truly matters is the system coming out. And on November 18th, 2012, the Wii U finally officially launched. The launch of the Wii U. This felt like something that would never come. We were waiting for so long. It was like asking, will Christ ever return? Nope. Opening up the Wii U basic set, we have an HDMI cord, sensor bar for Wii remotes, power brick for the console, power brick for the gamepad. You can't charge the controller via the console. It requires its own outlet. That is pathetic. I understand the gamepad requires more power than the Wii U was able to supply it, but that's Nintendo's problem to figure out. This just feels like something they realized 2 weeks before the system launched. Like, oops, the gamepad needs its own AC adapter. Well, let's pull out the console itself. We get a white one with the basic set, and it's as boring as it isn't interesting. What, did they just think the Wii was successful? We'll just take a sander to it. The Wii U console design is incredibly functional. It looks good in any entertainment center, but it also doesn't stick out whatsoever. This system has no character to it. It isn't striking like the original Wii with its silver stand or quirky like the GameCube. It's just product. I mean, you can make your video game system a basic black box, that's fine, but just look at some of the most iconic and popular consoles of all time. Functionally, they could have all just been basic black boxes, but they aren't for a reason. It's good to have personality. It's good to stick out. The Wii U feels designed for someone
Getting owned.
self-conscious to admit they own a
I
video
am
game
not getting owned. I have killed the
Oh,
mimic.
That's not a video game console. It's a box full of
There is a large angry dragon here, though, that I would like to deal with, but I don't think I have a way to do so.
I mean, everything is pretty cut and dry here.
You
The
need a metal
PlayStation
helmet.
4 and 5, they look cooler, but the trade-off is
I
they
don't
have no
think metal
graphical
helmets help
where
with
the
this.
eject button is. First,
Isn't
Nintendo
there a way to
was
get up
about
behind
the
him?
reset.
Guess who has trousers?
We have a flap on the
It's me.
front similar to
Construction
the
trousers?
Though
Yeah.
this one flicks into the system, which I always
Congratulations.
found SD
Thanks.
card slot and 2 USB ports are nestled in here with the controller sync button on the outside now. Then on the back, 2 more USB ports plus all the connections you need, including the same AV port from the Wii, just in case. There's only 4 scenarios I can think of, and 3 involve bears. Man, what a boring ass system. I don't blame Nintendo for always wanting to focus on the controller. I blame them for making this console boring as shit to begin with. That's about it for this bundle. No accessories included outside of the Wii U gamepad itself, which I guess you can consider this an accessory. The police do. This is the Wii U gamepad. Can you see it? This thing is crazy to hold in your hands for the first time. It almost feels unreal. It just looks kind of fake, especially the white one. The shininess of the plastic, the curves, and overall size of this thing reek of Fisher Price. This is like baby's first iPad or a TV remote for seniors. This just looks and feels goofy. However, I am confident with going on the record that the Wii U gamepad is one of the most misunderstood controllers of all time. This is so comfortable. These grips and molds on the back make it surprisingly easy to pick up and immediately position your fingers where they belong. The button placement is nearly perfect here. Everything's in reach and feels natural. The buttons themselves all feel great. Nice and big, soft, yet mushy click to them. And the D-pad is the perfect size. The thumbsticks have a great range and satisfying click down. The shoulder buttons may be in a bit of an awkward place. It feels like my fingers are sort of reaching for them, but they're nowhere near uncomfortable. The triggers are awesome. Their wide design make them a joy to press. However, they aren't analog ones like you see on Xbox and PlayStation. there's no degree of movement here. You're either on or you're off. It's just a strange decision to make. If you want this console to house all the hardcore titles, you would think they'd want to make sure it could play them to their fullest potential. But because of this small decision, a lot of racing games just won't work as well on here. They'll work just fine. At the end of the day, this isn't a huge issue, but it's strange that it exists in the first place. Especially considering Nintendo said no to that but crammed a whole ass camera in here. They sold the Wii U at a loss.
And for damn good reasons.
Here's a microphone because God forbid a Wii U gamepad not have one. NFC reader for all kinds of things at launch. Nothing is things. The TV button on the controller is probably the best feature. Using an IR blaster at the top, this can act as a universal remote. It's incredibly convenient because you're pretty likely to lose this. I think it's physically impossible to lose one of these. It comes with a stylus to use on the... Oh, there's a screen. It's the answer to all of our problems. The most necessary necessity. The 6-inch low-resolution touchscreen with no multi-touch streams are made of. Listen, everything about this screen suffices. It does the job it needs to do, but it doesn't do anything exceptionally well and was actively outdated in numerous ways, which in 2008 maybe you could get away with. In 2012, smartphones and tablets were experiencing widespread adoption. What once were considered luxuries were starting to be bought up by everybody. These all had big and beautiful screens, phenomenal multi-touch, and were far more affordable than they'd ever been before. So tell me again, why is this special? This is a solid feeling controller, with a bunch of stuff from things we already own crammed in here at a lower quality than what we're used to. And Nintendo's expecting us to be dazzled? Camera.
It's nice to meet you, future.
However, something I think is pretty impressive about the gamepad is the ability to stream and display whatever the console sends to it without noticeable lag or an internet connection. It can't be understated that this is a seamless experience, but with smartphones and tablets, to do a similar thing, you need a streaming box and Wi-Fi, and even then, there's a vat of delay. With that being said, the Wii U gamepad has a pretty limited range. You step anywhere close to 25 feet away, and we're gonna install an electric fence, but this will keep me off the street. The range is serviceable, yet it's a bit too limited for me to comfortably recommend the Wii U to those who want to take advantage of off-TV play, because it's really spotty. Sometimes it'll let you go in the other room, other times that's the last thing it'll let you do. Really. Speaking of misery, battery life. Nintendo claims the gamepad will last about 3 to 5 hours on one charge, which is pretty bad. I mean, they probably cheaped out on this because this isn't a portable console. This is always going to be within range of an outlet, so it's not the biggest deal. But it's for sure annoying, especially considering how this thing will not hold a charge. Pick this thing up after a few days of not using it, even if it was at 100% battery where you left off, it's gonna be dead.
Bit of a mixed bag on the controller here. Though to be fair, I have a similar amount of complaints towards the Wii Remote. In fact, I might even have more. This is just easier to rag on because... okay, this is so big and goofy looking with so many unnecessary additions that just make it unwieldy to some and overwhelming to newcomers. I mean, half of the things included here, I don't have an excuse for. What uses the port on the bottom here? Oh, I just answered the question. However, as an actual controller, just holding it, for me, I always really liked how this felt in my hands. I understand why others wouldn't, but for my hands, this works. Well, let's take a peek at what's included in the deluxe set. Only 50 bones more, and considering all the extra junk you get with it, I don't think I can look a basic set owner in the eyes. Mirrors. So we get a full-blown copy of Nintendo Land, $60 value, the Wii U console stand, since the Wii U is basically nothing but love handles. If you wanted it to be more vertical like the original Wii, these little feet do the trick. They have a nice feel to them. Popping them on the system is easy, snug, and yeah, who would have thought this could happen? I sometimes dabbled in using these feet, and when I was getting bored of my Wii U, I thought surely it can't be due to the games. Standing it upright might help. The gamepad charging cradle, you plug the AC adapter in here, and bam, you have a discussion piece. This was a nice feature. Nintendo included a similar accessory with the original 3DS model, but in the end, it felt a bit unnecessary as an included accessory, especially when they also bundled in a gamepad stand. That's all it is. A stand for the gamepad. It's just plastic. It's my favorite thing. This stand is so good. That is a Wii U gamepad stand. Now, you can put anything on it. I still use it as a phone or tablet stand. It just works so well. It's sturdy, well-designed, yet lightweight with a small footprint. This is a fantastic product. Why was it included? I feel like you don't need both the gamepad stand and the charging cradle.
they both effectively do the same thing. They prop your gamepad up, and you can charge it in both of them. Now, if the gamepad stand was adjustable and the charging cradle wasn't, I'd understand it more. But this is the Wii U, and it doesn't, and I don't. In addition to all of this, the deluxe set initially came with the deluxe digital promotion. The system gave you $5 gift cards for spending a certain amount on the Nintendo eShop for the next 2 years. Listen, I get it if you only have 300 to spare, but man, that landfill's looking awful lonely. I always recommended people save up just a bit longer, since Nintendo Land alone is worth more separate. Though the color choice might have been a deal breaker for some, as the deluxe set only came in black here in North America. Eventually, Japan and Europe received white consoles in the bundle, but here in Ohio, this is our Wii deluxe set. I mean, the black looks better, but for 9 seconds, I mean, you eat soup with your hands once, and it looks fucking nasty. The glossy finish just shows scratches and smudges so easily. If the deluxe came in white, I might have gone with that for just how much better the console and controller looked after a while. But overall, the initial package is fine. That first time you unsheath the gamepad from the box, that's a special moment based on square footage alone. However, none of this matters until we actually experience the Wii U, and thankfully, I turned mine on 9 years ago. And now it's ready to play. At launch, the Wii U required a day 1 update, which enabled the following. The Wii U. Pretty much every feature listed on the box wasn't available. You had to connect to the internet to download a patch, and telling a Nintendo fan to do that in 2012, you might as well be asking water to burn. This was a big deal. I mean, this was unprecedented for Nintendo at the time. Articles were written up about how this was unacceptable.
You doing,
If
Sheila?
you didn't have internet, what were you gonna do? How were the Amish going to use the internet browser? I always found this outrage to be overblown. And this system update mostly added features that were internet-based anyways, like the eShop, Wii U Chat, Miiverse. Out of the box, the Wii U could still play Wii U discs, so it's not like it was internet-dependent. Standing up for the little guy without internet but $350 plus to blow on a Wii U at launch feels silly to me when the features they're missing out on due to the day 1 update, they'd be missing out on regardless. However, Wii backwards compatibility was also included in this update. But if you get use out of that, you probably already owned a Wii, so why would you need to immediately use that feature on Wii U? Why did Satoru Iwata apologize? Because apparently the update was bricking units when users would unplug the Wii U during installation. Why would you do that? Okay, well, to be fair, I think the biggest issue that came with this update was the speed of it. The Wii U is, pardon my French, slow. What takes 3 seconds on the Xbox 360 takes 30 here. Something as simple as going to the home menu takes eons. So imagine how long an update like this would take. Well, once we get everything squared away and boot up the system as normal, our Mii is dropped into the Wara Wara Plaza on the television. On the gamepad screen, we have all of our applications. Now, what is the Wara Wara Plaza? That's what I'm looking at. This is supposed to represent what all the Wii U owners across the world are doing. These are all users posting on Miiverse, and the icons are some of the most popular games right now. Why is this the main menu? This is cute, but it's confusing if anything. The reason I know all of this is because, look at me, I understand what Nintendo was trying to do here. A big part of the Wii U concept to them was community. Whether it be in person or through the internet, that theme is shoved right in your face as the console boots up, showing what everybody is saying. It made it so then, no matter what, you never really felt alone while playing. However, I feel this works better as a screensaver, or just as a portion of the screen. You can't do a damn thing here. All the buttons control what's on the gamepad. Until we hit X or tap this corner nugget, and our screens have switched. Now I can move all around the Wara Wara Plaza, tap on me, zoom in and out, and wow! It's not much less pointless! I've always found it incredibly annoying how you can't control what's on the TV screen with the gamepad. If you want to get anything done, you gotta swap it down here. The only way you can select what's on the TV is by using a non-gamepad controller like a Wii remote. What a dumb limitation. This feels like they're trying to get you to see the value in having 2 screens, but it's just making you question it that much more. Like, why is this better? If these screens don't complement each other, what's down here suddenly doesn't make sense because of what's up there. This isn't smart or well thought out. It just feels like, let's give them something nice to look at on their secondary display. Man, just change the channel at that point. The main applications menu is pretty damn similar to the 3DS, but now with loads more detail and numerous buttons floating around in the background. Moving your controller around affects the reflection on all the icons. Oh, when you insert a disc, they animated one realistically spinning. This user interface is a lot of things, but it ain't lazy. While I don't think everything coherently comes together here, it functions. It does what you need it to do efficiently enough, and as long as the system software does that, it's hard to complain. Be grateful. Let's check out the Meme Maker, one of the original Wii's killer apps. I made so many memes just for fun back in the day. Seriously, these are from my childhood Wii. There's yeah, okay, oh. I genuinely think this is one of the greatest character creators of all time. And not the most fleshed out, God no, but it's so simple and intuitive with the Wiimote pointer, yet surprisingly deep, even with the limited options. It feels like everybody can make themselves with this and have fun while doing it. You can sit down with everybody, point at the screen, argue over which options to choose. It's such an underrated aspect of that system, and it's back here on Wii U. Making memes on Wii U just isn't the same, man. You use the touchscreen, which works great, but so much of the meme-making experience is exclusive to the gamepad. On the TV, there's a small picture-in-picture view showing what's on there, but it just feels uninvolved for others in the room. Like, oh, this is what Scott is doing all by himself hunched in the corner. It just feels oddly lonely, especially when you use the photo option. Here we can take a picture of ourselves and it'll make a meme based on it. God is dead and so is my self-esteem. When we have the option of editing our meme further after this, they just don't show the picture-in-picture view. Why? This is such a throwaway feature. Nobody's ever satisfied with what it comes up with, and the only joy anybody ever gets out of it is due to how much it's off the mark. Meme Maker could have been amazing on Wii U. There's loads of ways they could have taken advantage of the two screens. What if two people could be making memes at the same time? You could even make a game out of it. Both try to make the same person and see who gets closest. Or what if while I'm making a meme on the gamepad, the TV screen is showing them doing humorous things, which would be entertaining for the audience and also help showcase how they would look in a game. Or honestly, just a full screen duplicate of what's happening on the gamepad. Either go all the way or fart it out. This middle ground is demented. It feels empty. The Wii channel felt alive, like it was an actual place. The Mii's were walking around and interacting. Here, you select a Mii in a static pose on a shelf, and it's just depressing. Man, I need a pick-me-up. Excuse me, I was under the impression this second screen was more important than insurance, which is really frustrating because I'm not using either. Okay, so I understand not everything having this mind-blowing planets-aligning moment with the two screens, but asking for more than nothing ain't asking for that. Sure, there might be some sensitive details in the settings. That's a perfect use for the second screen, to input passwords or look at Wi-Fi networks, but to have nothing on the TV during this, when you have to fiddle with settings, that's boring for others in the room, but at least they have something to look at while you do it. Wii U Chat is another built-in feature, offering video calls amongst users. I actually never had the chance to try this before it was discontinued in late 2017, but that won't stop me. There's activity log for info on how many hours you've sunk into activity log, parental controls, health and safety information, you know, basic stuff, just like the pre-installed software on the Wii. Like if any console deserved fun things baked onto the system, it was the Wii U. The only apps on here are productivity based. And nothing like the photo channel, everybody votes channel, check me out channel on the Wii, or AR games and face raiders on the 3DS. Those were such fun little time wasters that helped showcase the unique hardware. The Wii U, none of these apps are inherently meant to be fun and honestly do a pretty poor job utilizing and validating this controller. But that's where the other half of the OS comes into play. So we have this row of icons down
Boy,
here.
lad, you enjoy a nice cup, huh?
Do our thing in, then hop right back.
It's nice of them to give you free tea every time you throw their laundry out or throw their stuff
I
out.
give them a brand new bed. If I gave you a brand new bed every 10 minutes, you would give me a cup of tea.
I would agree. Right along Alongside Wii U chat, this service was discontinued in 2017 because they did not want to keep paying the moderators. My lord. Miiverse was a very simple concept. Online message board / social media platform hybrid built into your
I would
main
personally
console.
prefer not to
Everything
receive
added
more
to
new
the
beds
view,
than I can
post
faster than I
it,
can use them.
postage is completely up to you. Completely. You can ask
Sounds
for
like
tips,
you left for a
fan
lack
art,
of trying.
your thoughts, anything. It makes a lot of sense considering if I post this to Facebook, I'm a freak. If I post this to Miiverse, I'm one of the freaks. There's just something kind of special about interacting with those who are just as fucked up as you are. I mean, you needed to buy a Wii U to access Miiverse. Automatically, you and every other Miiverse user have something in common, which lets each you got every comment you received feeling so nice. This was a social media based around everybody getting along and talking to each other about things they love, which is such a far cry from what social media is today. Back then, I found Miiverse to be a fun little distraction. I tried posting on it a few times, but never got super invested. It was mostly there to gawk at surprisingly good art and 2-year-olds ruining their credibility. However, in retrospect, it's obvious that Miiverse was the true heart and soul of the Wii U. Somebody get some chicken soup for that soul. Miiverse didn't make the Wii U a must-buy, or rather, it was a cool element of the console that's easier to appreciate these days. Every system now has a button dedicated to sharing on social media, which basically just amounts to Twitter and Facebook. That makes all the sense in the world. If you share a Nintendo-related thing on Twitter, that's free marketing for them, plus they don't have to worry about server maintenance, moderating, all the headaches that come with managing a service like this. But Miiverse offered a community of like-minded individuals who just wanted to talk about Wario, and I think that made for one of the most engaging features of this console. It gave the Wii U a unique feel that I didn't appreciate enough until it was gone. Now I have to get banned drawing penises at Bob Evans. The Nintendo eShop was here and accounted for at launch. Not only could we download digital-only titles, but select full retail ones too. Though no classic games via the Virtual Console yet, like on the Wii and 3DS. This whole setup was definitely better than the Wii Shop channel. As limited as that was, the experience definitely stuck with me though. The Wii U's eShop is very pleasant and decently designed, though it just doesn't have... The internet browser was honestly really damn good here. It was fast, worked with websites like YouTube, and the touchscreen made browsing on here far easier than any other console. Plus, there's this really great feature here where you can hide what's on the TV and proudly display it at a moment's notice. I hope the moment was the only one that noticed that. Everything else here is pretty basic stuff. The friend list for users you add as friends, which thankfully the Wii U introduced usernames for online profiles, which is all you need to search for people. This is a huge upgrade from the Wii, which I guess for safety reasons they used friend codes. Oh, wait, that's my IP address. But not only did you have to use mile-long codes, but different ones for each game, which was absurd. So I'd love to commend Nintendo for this, but you don't applaud Serial Killer for not serial killing one day, to end up serial killing again. Nintendo TV wasn't available until a month after launch, though you were able to launch standard Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, and YouTube apps, which all worked well here. In fact, they were all optimized for the system, using the gamepad in unique ways, which I will say, watching movies and TV shows, this worked pretty well. On Netflix, you could scrub through on the controller, pick a new episode, or just watch on the secondary screen. It wasn't anything fancy, but I definitely used it a fair amount because of these features. However, after a while, I just ended up using the controller like normal since it required less brain power. That's the thing about two screens this far apart. Whether it's moving your eyes back and forth or cranking your neck up and down, it just never gets super comfortable. And I know that sounds pretty pathetic. I need a cigarette. But I think it just wears me down because this isn't necessary, yet it's being forced onto me like it is. Netflix couldn't be controlled with anything other than the gamepad. And while there are benefits, using this all the time can get kind of overbearing. But hey, I felt like that with the Wii Remote and the 3DS's 3D effect. Those were genuine innovations, yet they were oftentimes used improperly. It all comes down to that one thing, that one game that can prove the worth of a gimmick. And luckily, at the Wii U's launch, we had over 20 games release alongside it. Will at least one of these validate the console? Our dog's cats. Wii U games came in these here blue cases with this droopy ass header featuring a yellow trim. A really odd direction to go in, especially considering this is fundamentally the GameCube box art template. You know, Nintendo's worst-selling console at the time. Yeah, I'm gonna do the thing I did to get shot in the face again.
It's like the world is out to get me.
I don't think these are ugly boxes. Rather, they're just kinda lame. It feels like they wanted to ensure there was no way you'd mistake these for Wii games. But in doing that, they just ended up making these look awkward, if anything. The header continues over to the spine, where we get this ridge that never lines up correctly with games surrounding it. The font on the spine constantly changes between a default one, also reminiscent of the GameCube, the actual stylized logos, and sometimes a strange middle ground between the two. The overall aesthetic just feels like it can't be taken seriously, which is just bizarre considering this is the console Nintendo wanted to win the hardcore back with. Yet the box art design looks way goofier and kid-like than the Wii's. I don't know, I mean, I would be lying if I said I wasn't charmed by these boxes. I think they have a certain appeal to them, though my lord do I question some elements at play here. The discs themselves can hold up to 25 gigabytes of data, similar to a Blu-ray disc, though this is its own proprietary format. We can tell by how cuddly they are. Oh my god, these things have the smoothest edges of any disc, and they feel so nice in the hands. Now, why did they do this?
Why am I doing this?
It doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day, it's all about what's on these discs, not what's around them. I'll jot that one down for later. Let's finally start taking a look at the Wii U's launch lineup, starting with the most notable releases, those published by Nintendo themselves, of which there were 4 games: Nintendo Land, New Super Mario Bros. U, Ninja Gaiden 3 Razor's Edge, and Sing Party. Well, obviously, we should ring in the new system with the deluxe sets pack-in. This is Nintendo Land.
And this is a good idea.
The Wii U's Wii Sports, huh? That sentiment alone caused many to immediately dismiss Nintendo Land. It's a minigame collection with Mii's using a fair amount of motion control. Yeah, I haven't seen that one before. But everything about this game felt like Nintendo was looking to bring themselves to the next level. You're visiting a Nintendo theme park with 12 attractions based on some of their franchises, with each one utilizing the gamepad in a unique way. And while these attractions are very much so minigames, they have so much depth, content, and replay value that it's sometimes hard to consider many of them just minigames. The Zelda Battle Quest attraction has 2 modes, 2 different ways to play depending on if you're playing with the gamepad or Wii remote, over a dozen stages to go through. This isn't a full game by any means, but I'd say it's meatier than Link's Crossbow Training, which was a full game, albeit a freebie bundle with the Wii Zapper. But still, this is one of 12 games, and it has that much to it. Not all of these are complete winners. Some of them use the gamepad in pretty pointless ways. Others are just flat out not great. But what's good here is so damn good, I'd argue that this is one of the greatest multiplayer games of all time. The attractions are split up via 3 categories: competitive, team-based, and single-player. I'd say the competitive games are some of the best examples of how the Wii U gamepad can enhance things and offer experiences that just wouldn't be the same elsewhere. For instance, Mario Chase is basically tag. 4 players on a TV, 1 on the gamepad with a full map of it. Such a simple idea, a timeless game at its core. But the 2 separate screens make it work so damn well. This is what makes the Wii U special. So why don't they focus on it? Nintendo wanted to push how the gamepad could do all kinds of things. But in the process of doing so, I feel that revealed their lack of direction with this concept. You ask what the Wii Remote can do, you get a very definitive answer. What does the Wii U gamepad do? The amount of things the gamepad does in Nintendo Land feels a bit overcompensation-y. Some of these ideas are really great, but then you have these others where, yeah, you're using the gamepad, but are you? A lot of these could just be done with a Wii Remote or work on an iPad. Some of them solve a problem that they created themselves, which can lead to some fun ideas, but that's not innovation. You can't act like this is the controller to change everything when you're actively designing your team. Nintendo Land doesn't do this too much, but this is a trend in game design I see consistently throughout the Wii U's life. I would have preferred it if they focused more on the asymmetrical multiplayer-based experiences, because that's what Nintendo Land does best. And unfortunately, it's only about half of the package. The other half isn't bad. Many of the single-player experiences are quite fun, but they just don't leave the same impression. So while I'm not sure if Nintendo Land completely validates this controller's existence, at the very least shows the potential. The groundwork is laid with this game. It shows that this thing has potential, and if some of the best ideas in this package are elaborated on, then we'd have a game where it would feel as if the controller was specifically designed for it. while currently, it feels like the controller was designed first, and they cobbled together some experiences that could use it in some way. Visually, though, this thing is off the charts, which is really impressive considering this is the first HD Nintendo release. They stepped up their game in numerous ways with this title. The minigame collection with this much content, looking this great, being this much fun in both multiplayer and single player after years of what was often the bare minimum on Wii. Even if it didn't make as big of a splash as Wii Sports and didn't really convince the public why this controller needs to exist, Nintendo Land was still great. It's some of the most fun I've ever had in multiplayer. The single player experiences are surprisingly enjoyable. The Nintendo references obviously make the title less accessible than Wii Sports, which I also feel was something holding the game back. Nevertheless, they were cute, and the amount of effort crammed into this, ensuring it was replayable with loads of content and attention to detail, proved to me that Nintendo wanted to start this generation off on the right foot. We were officially in a new era for Nintendo. New Super Mario Bros. U. This was the main launch title everybody picked up because they didn't have a good excuse. You're really gonna sit here and act like you're too good to buy a B-grade 2D Mario? Motherfucker, you bought a Wii U. Why else would you get this at launch? You're here to play the latest Nintendo games. Do it. Because of that, on paper, launching the Wii U alongside this game made a ton of sense. New Super Mario Bros. Was a massive success, appealing to both casual and hardcore players, with New Super Mario Bros. Wii selling over 30 million units. You'd be stupid not to launch the Wii U with this.
And yet, I am awestruck with how stupid this was.
New Super Mario Bros. U is a good game. It's yet another well-designed 2D Mario with everything you'd expect here and accounted for. However, this was the fourth New Super Mario Bros. Game, and the second released this year. What originally made this series of games so enjoyable outside of the great design and control was how they were a return to classic Mario gameplay after being absent for over a decade. The Wii entry was a return to the format on consoles and introduced simultaneous multiplayer. And after just getting New Super Mario Bros. 2 on the 3DS, after getting a new mainline Mario game almost every year since 2006, it left New Super Mario Bros. U with a lot to prove. Why does this game exist? Why does it need to be on Wii U? Does it have anything that pushes the series forward? Those were some of my questions leading up to release, and Nintendo answered them. Thanks! Man, what a nothing Mario game this is. It doesn't do anything particularly bad. It just doesn't do anything at all. This doesn't feel like a sequel to New Super Mario Bros. Wii. Rather, an alternate take on it, where everything is pretty much the damn same outside of a few inconsequential elements in the level designs. I mean, it's so bad that sometimes the only way I can differentiate between Wii and U gameplay is the player icon. There's barely any meaningful additions to the core game. This is just a new Super Mario Bros. Game to play on Wii U. There's no other reason to pick this up. It's just to give you something to do with your new system. Now, with that being said, this could be far worse. For a launch title, being just another Mario game as the biggest negative, that's pretty damn good. Other consoles would kill to have something remotely as good as a basic 2D Mario at launch. Though for Nintendo users, this wasn't lucrative. They got these games all the time. So then even if it is minor, what sets this game apart from the others? Well, you have boost mode, where one player is playing the game as per usual on the TV, while another places blocks on the gamepad.
Oh, okay, well, disregard anything negative I've said about this game.
Really? That's the best you can do? It's a fine feature, but my lord, this was all over the Wii U advertising, as if anybody was looking at this and saying, finally, a Mario game with blocks! The world map is interconnected, much like Super Mario World, which was heavily requested prior to this, and they delivered it with half of their asses. Each world in this game is still the generic Mario themes: grass, desert, snow. So when you travel to each of them, there's a very drastic line separating things. So this doesn't feel like a world. This feels like a bunch of areas stitched together. There are baby Yoshis, which operate in fun and unique ways, alongside the new flying squirrel power-up. This new character Rabbit appears on the world map every now and then, and you can chase him to nab a special PA corn item. This is only somewhat noteworthy because Nabbit has a somewhat interesting design. The story is a little different now, in the sense that Bowser has overtaken Peach's castle, so instead of starting at Peach's castle and going to Bowser's, you're heading back to Peach's castle, now run by Bowser. I am really stressed about this ransom. The main campaign is typical ass 2D Mario. It's good, but that's all it is. This ain't an experience that sticks with you. There's no real standout moments. It's something to mindlessly blast through and nothing more. Though the side modes are a bit more interesting here. Specifically Challenge Mode, which was really fun to chip away at. Coin Battle allows you to edit coin placement with the gamepad, which is a pretty smart use of the controller, albeit very hidden. Many don't even know about this, and I think it's a way cooler feature than Boost Mode. There's definitely a few shining moments in this package, but that doesn't take away from this being the most boring new Super Mario Brothers to me, both to talk about and to play. The level design is good, yet oftentimes very empty and overly long. The additions to the franchise don't make a difference, but for the first HD Mario game, while it's clean and polished, it's not impressive or interesting to look at, New Super Mario Bros. U is just there. I was always gonna buy it because, well, it's Mario. We all love Mario games, and this is a fine one. But there's nothing exciting here. It's the same damn game they've made time and time again, which makes this a safe purchase. You know what you're gonna get. While that's good for longtime Nintendo fans at the launch of a new system, it's pretty bad for anybody else. Hey, when you get your new Wii U, you have an actual Mario game to blast through. Most of the time, you have to make do with the scraps available on launch day, but with the Wii U, hey, this is an actual game! It's fully featured with loads of levels, all playable in multiplayer. You can try and collect all the star coins to unlock everything or get gold medals on all the challenges. This gave you quite a lot to do with your system right out the gate. And I think most Nintendo fans would be playing this regardless of it being a launch title or not. So this was cool to have here. However, if you weren't a diehard Nintendo fan buying a Wii U the second it was available, why would you want this game? It looks the damn same to the game you have on Wii, but this one you have to buy a whole ass new console to play. Because of that, I don't think this game did what Nintendo wanted it to do. But what I think it did was give early adopters of the Wii U an actual game to play during this period. It may not have been anything special, but it was a Mario game, and for Nintendo fans at launch, that was enough. For everybody else, why would you spend over $300 to play this?
Well, I love the color blue, and that's included for free!
Nintendo Land and Mario were the big ones to get here, but that doesn't mean Nintendo didn't put out other launch titles. We can't forget Sing Party. The initial Wii U ad campaign really pushed this game as if it was a big deal. It's karaoke. That's all this is. And it doesn't make it bad. It just makes me question why Nintendo went this hard.
78 Construction.
By Activision at the time and known for the DJ Hero series. It uses the gamepad plus the included Wii U microphone to revolutionize karaoke. You see, before, you'd be looking this way. Now with the power of Wii U...
Construction calculator. It's better to stick with Mahogany Homes, it looks like. Oh. There we go, that makes more sense. Oops. I forgot to talk to you. Alright, we might stop construction here. Because we can. Let's go for crystal saw. Build mode. Build mode engaged. Alright, we need to grab our T. Oh, I forgot to grab mahogany planks. I'm dumb. Alright, let's grab some mahogany planks.
The idea is that you face the audience by reading the lyrics on the gamepad, while the others in the room can sing and dance along by watching the TV. You're asking a Wii U owner to face a crowd? Man, I'm like a deer in headlights if they had pants to piss. I think the audience for this is a bit too idealized. Like, who's doing this? The singer, you're the only one playing the game. You're the only one getting scored. Then everybody else in the room, the game's just asking them to dance along. It doesn't matter, they're not getting scored, they're using no controller. Just do it! If they did a Just Dance style thing for the audience, where they're dancing with weird modes while you're singing towards them, sure, they'd be actually playing with you. But here, it's just asking people to dance for no reason. At that point, why do you need the game? Just play some music and dance. But doing that doesn't involve the Wii U microphone. Well, nothing other than Sing Party does! Yep, bundled with the game, we get the official Wii U microphone, which was also sold separately at launch because... Did you ever start a sentence without knowing how it's gonna end? This is literally just a basic-ass USB microphone. It's not as a default USB mic as the ones included with Guitar Hero or Boogie, but that's all it pretty much is. So acting like this is the official Wii U microphone, designed specifically for the console, I'm like, okay, sure, like this wad of gum, see, it fits. Sing Party does support multiple microphones for multiplayer, which is definitely why they offered these separate from the bundle. I just find this to be funny. I laughed earlier, I swear. Sing Party is a fine karaoke game. The user interface on the gamepad is slick, and the track list is sure to please anybody in 2012 looking for the most inoffensive pop playlist. But that's all it really is. I think it's silly for Nintendo to do anything more. Strangely enough, I think they advertise this more than
let's
their
clean
final
up the
published
inventory.
launch
Heck
title,
yeah.
Ninja Gaiden 3 Razor's Edge. How could that be? Ninja Gaiden 3 originally released on 360 and PS3 back in March of 2012, following a ton of excitement. I mean, this was revealed for Wii U back at E3 2011, and the crowd went wild. And then, the game came out. The crowd did not go wild at E3 2012. Ninja Gaiden 3 wasn't bad. I think it was just really mishandled and misguided. The series was known for being brutally difficult, and 3 aimed to widen its appeal by simplifying everything and making it far easier, which translates to, I can't stop drooling. Yeah, it's pretty brain dead now, and strips the core gameplay of the depth that made so many people fans of Ninja Gaiden to begin with. And the effort to appeal to more people than ever before, they ended up with a game that nobody really wanted. But hey, this isn't Ninja Gaiden 3, no, this is Ninja Gaiden 3 Razor's Edge, an updated version that was actually announced as the Wii U version back in 2011. So you announce an enhanced edition a year before the actual game releases? Their foresight is incredible! We got the better version exclusive on Wii U for a bit. Well, it did eventually release elsewhere, and Nintendo published it on here, making it the third M-rated title of theirs. Very impressive. At this rate, tomorrow they'll be eating solid foods. Razor's Edge is still Ninja Gaiden 3 at its core, but with loads of additions, tweaks, and enhancements to make the best out of a bad situation. There's only so much you can do, especially within about half a year, and taking all of this into account, Razor's Edge is pretty impressive, and definitely the definitive version of Ninja Gaiden 3. If only this was the definitive version of Razor's Edge. The Wii U gamepad doesn't do much here, displaying combos you can perform, which actually isn't the worst idea for a game like this. Though for how fast-paced this is, it's pretty hard to fully take advantage of it. A few actions have touchscreen buttons, which also have normal buttons to press, so I assume this is for when I feel like mixing it up and moving my thumb 4 inches to my left. Cause it's Sunday. However, probably the biggest upside here is off-TV play. Jam through the entirety of Razor's Edge on the gamepad, which was a big benefit to this version of really any multi-platform game on here. And when it comes to Wii U gamepad features for Ninja Gaiden, I think the way they did it here was the only true way to go. This game ain't too bad. Definitely not the best Ninja Gaiden game, but the best version of one of the worst Ninja Gaiden games. And that's everything Nintendo published at launch, which it's definitely an interesting lineup. It almost feels like something's missing, like if they had one more game, this would be a bit more of a fully fleshed out lineup on Nintendo's end. Maybe if Lego City Undercover made launch, I don't know, I mean it was in the launch commercial. However, as odd as these 4 games being together is, I think they make for a pretty high quality offering by the company. Nothing that I'd consider a system seller, but definitely a few must-haves for those who already owned a Wii U. But that's where the third parties come in, and nobody was more supportive of the console than Ubisoft, especially at launch with their exclusive M-rated title, Zombie U.
This right here was the biggest deal for Wii U owners. A game. But this wasn't just any game. This was a scary game. See? And a horror game exclusive to the Wii U using the gamepad in integral ways. That sounds exactly what the doctor ordered.
Side note, he sucks. However, let's not forget that Ubisoft also promised Wii owners at launch that their dreams of a gritty first-person shooter with realistic motion controls would become a reality. They also called you ugly. You can draw a lot of parallels between Zombie U and Red Steel before launch, which was a bit concerning. I mean, this game didn't turn out all too great, but Zombie U was gonna be different. This had so many unique ideas. This had potential. This was going to be huge. And what it ended up being was Zombie U. Much like Ubisoft's Wii launch title, Red Steel, Zombie U received pretty mixed reviews. This was a game with some incredible ideas, utilizing the unique features of the Wii U as much as it could. However, to me, it doesn't really stick the landing. You control a survivor in the zombie apocalypse, and your duty is to survive. I'll do better, I promise. When you die in the game, your character is dead, and you wake up as a completely different survivor and try to pick up where your last character left off. In addition, the Wii U gamepad is used for numerous things, but most notably, your inventory. When you're rifling through your stuff, you have to look down at it while you're vulnerable up on the TV. You're always a little worried something's going to attack you while you're looking down. These are genius additions to a survival horror game. And in 2012, this genre was suffering and needed something like this. And for Zombie U to come out and not only proudly label itself as such, but also bring some great new ideas with it as well, you gotta give it props for that. But those great ideas are all Zombie U really has. You can appreciate them, but you're not really experiencing them at their fullest potential. This isn't a bad game, I just find it to be an unpolished and repetitive one, which downplays the survival horror elements. These zombies take way too long to kill. While on paper that makes them more of a threat and in tandem scarier, in practice, it just makes each encounter annoying and overly long. The combat isn't interesting, it's so basic, which is fine, it works, but you're gonna be engaging in it so much and it's just so tedious. The environments are really dark, which obviously makes sense, but they're so dark that it's hard to tell where I'm at most of the time. There's barely any story, the visuals look like they belong on the original Xbox, and the overall package feels too dependent on the Wii gamepad gimmicks and the new survivor upon death mechanic to make this worthwhile. Everything else just doesn't feel like it comes together to create a full experience. But again, that doesn't make Zombie U bad. If anything, many of the reasons I don't care for this game are why others like it. This is the definition of survival horror and brings you back to the golden age of that genre, both mechanically and aesthetically, while introducing concepts that are actually well thought out and work quite well. It's definitely a mixed bag and isn't for everyone, which I think threw many players off who bought it because this was one of the launch titles to get. But you know what? While I was never one to get super into Zombie U, I still respect the hell out of it. Creating an exclusive M-rated game on an unproven Nintendo console at launch, heavily utilizing the new controller in a genre that most companies were too chicken to touch at the time for the sake of sales numbers, that takes gumption and foresight. While Zombie U was obviously Ubisoft's big launch title, they put out a handful of others ranging from more Wii U exclusives to multi-platform ports, most notably Assassin's Creed 3. Tell me, how would you rather play Assassin's Creed 3? Like this or this? Other than that, it's the same game. It's pretty much identical to the PS3 and 360 releases outside of the gamepad usage, which is just a map with the option to do off-TV play buried in the options. But when we select that, the TV just tells us to look at the gamepad. Unlike Mario U, you can't do gameplay on both simultaneously. But hey, that just makes me think about the Wii U's true technical capabilities. Yeah, I may pump out games that look like just Xbox 360 titles, but for some of these titles, the Wii U had to render the image twice and stream one of them to the controller, or a completely separate image. So take what the 360's pumping out and double it. I think that is pretty impressive, so hats off to the Wii U for being able to do that. And hats off to Assassin's Creed 3 for not giving up what I think. This is a solid version. I don't think the map on the gamepad makes a crazy difference, honestly. I mean, I played this game with the mini-map in the corner and without it, having to look down at the gamepad. I mean, the less UI on screen is nice, but it's not like this stuff was covering up anything important. Plus, it was honestly a bit easier to quickly look at the mini-map than it is to look down at the controller. Yeah, it's less cramped down here and we can see more, but that was never a problem before. This works just fine. I'm thankful this is an option though, keyword being option, because I'm even more thankful this isn't forced upon you. It's a cool little bonus for those who want it, making this is a perfectly fine way to play Assassin's Creed 3, though it does feel a bit shafted in comparison to the other versions. The Wii U game got all the DLC released a few days after the 360 and PS3. Those platforms also got collector's edition variants the Wii U missed out on here in North America. It just feels a bit like this version wasn't a priority for Ubisoft, which did make it hard to warrant picking this one up compared to the other platforms. But that's getting pretty nitpicky. At the end of the day, this is Assassin's Creed 3 on Wii U, and that's all it really needs to be. Much like Just Dance 4, Ubisoft's other multiplayer.
I think it's time to murder some trolls.
On Wii U.
And this is Just Dance 4 with a hat.
That's pretty much what this feels like. I mean, it's poor Just Dance. The Wii U version does have a few exclusive songs on the disc and the Puppet Master mode, where the gamepad user picks which poses for the players on screen to do. Not a bad use. It's a pretty cute addition, alongside song lyrics appearing on here. I'd consider this to be the definitive version of the game. However, at this point, the series was going hot and heavy on the Xbox 360 with Kinect, and that, in my opinion, is the controller for dancing games. You still have to use the Wii Remote here. Actually, a good chunk of Ubisoft's games have Wii Remote required plastered right on the box. This was never a hard pill to swallow, but rather a weird one. Just kind of assumed you already had some Wii Remotes lying around, which I find to be a bit presumptuous. And it's not like these games couldn't have possibly worked without them. Just Dance, why not use the camera on the Wii U gamepad? Prop that sucker up and dance in front of it. ESPN Sports Connection, well, it doesn't actually require a Wii Remote to play, so they were ahead of me on that one. ESPN Sports Connection, because TBS said no. It seems like they added the ESPN branding fairly late into the game, as at E3 2012, they were marketing this as just Sports Connection. That original title is still appearing in game. This is just a Wii Sports wannabe with the ESPN logo slapped on it, which doesn't charm me. Nothing about this feels like ESPN. Hell, nothing about it feels good. It's such a choppy, ass-rough collection of 6 sports. It has incredibly dumb gamepad use, forcing touchscreen controls for games like tennis. I've played worse Wii Sports knockoffs, but this one's just pathetic. Well, why stop at Wii Sports? Ubisoft also released a Wii Fit lookalike in the form of Your Shape Fitness Evolved 2013. This is basically Just Dance but focused on fitness. It's well made, but the gamepad integration is stupid as hell. You require a Wii Remote to do the workouts and the gamepad to navigate the menus, so you have to keep swapping between them with the TV screen showing nothing! If you're going to require the Wii Remote, why even bother with this? Just copy what's on the TV to the gamepad and advertise how you can keep working out without the TV. But no, if you want to see the worst type of gamepad use, look no further than having to use my sweaty fingers on a touchscreen after a workout, just because if I don't, then why the hell did I spend $300? This game's okay. But what's a Ubisoft without tumors? This is Rabbids Land, their last published launch title. Rabbids made a name for themselves on the Wii. Whether that was a good name depends on who you're asking, obviously. The wacky motion control minigame collection was a staple of that system, and the Rabbids were kings of this domain. So after Rayman Raving Rabbids was a smash hit launch title on Wii, no matter what, we were getting Rabbids day 1 on Wii U. Rabbids Land! Interesting how the Wii U has 2 minigame collections based around theme parks at launch, and only 50% of them were worth a damn. You know, Rabbids Land isn't the worst. It actually has some fun ideas on how to use this thing. But pretty much every minigame is based around asymmetrical multiplayer, and they can be clever and interesting concepts that actually end up working quite well. Problem is, there's only 20 games, and the method you play them is via this game board, a la Mario Party. And this board is one of the most boring designs imaginable, plus it's the only one! Even some of the worst Mario Parties have a couple to choose from, but Rabbids Land only has 1 and 20 minigames, while a game like Mario Party 8 has 6 boards and over 70 minigames. This is just a really light and dull package. It's not of low quality. It has some good animations, some fun ideas, and minigames, though they're just mini-games. They're fun that first time, but that's not gonna last, especially if the glue holding the games together is so lame. I can't imagine anybody playing this for more than an hour anytime after the Wii U's launch.
Continue to push the bar.
But I gotta hand it to Ubisoft. They supported the hell out of Wii U. Even if most of their releases were a mixed bag, you could at the very least tell they cared and wanted to take advantage of this console's unique capabilities, which is something Warner Brothers did as well with their launch games, headlined by Batman Arkham City Armored Edition. What we have here is basically an enhanced definitive edition of Arkham City. All of the DLC is included alongside some new Wii U features that are shoved down our throat. If you're not a fan of using the gamepad, I know what your personal life looks like. No Wii U Pro controller support. The lack of an option to just play the game as it was on 360 and PS3 always bugs me. Like, these additions are cool, but there's no reason to act like they're necessary. The game worked fine on the other platforms with normal controllers, so why force it here? Well, they had to do something to get you interested in a year-old game. This released elsewhere in October of 2011, when Arkham City was announced for Wii U at E3 that year. People cheered and then realized what that meant. Yeah, it's cool the Wii U is getting this game, but if the console is releasing in 2012, am I going to care by then? So in came Armored Edition, featuring the BA team mode. Oh my god, that sounds incredible! After the initial excitement from seeing 3 letters, I soon realized what this entailed. Nothing. Bat mode is just a mechanic where you fill up a meter in combat and then can unleash it to be stronger.
Alright, it's time to maim some trolls. Let me try to finish this task faster as well. Expeditious bracelet. I want to get 2 more construction levels at some point, but I will give these people the rest of the night to enjoy their furniture before I attack it again.
For a limited time. This is the easiest addition you can
My
make
leg's
to the
asleep.
game that makes
Wake
no
up,
difference.
sheeple.
All just to say Batman's faster and stronger on Wii U. Now the real star of the show here is the unique gamepad features, contextualized with Batman's updated suit sporting a screen in the arm.
Go to bed, sheeple.
Make this natural. You know, this game made me realize how most multiplats just couldn't.
I said
win
go
on
bed,
this
sheeple.
console. If they don't utilize the
Oh.
gamepad, what the hell?
No.
If they do, what the hell? Arkham
Do
City
it.
uses it more than most others, and it varies in usefulness. Many of these feel like nothing more than
No.
a gimmick, while some are genuinely pretty cool. I don't think it's enough to consider this the definitive version of the game. I mean, performance-wise alone, it does have a few hiccups in the frame rate department compared to the other platforms. But I think it's a cool alternative to the vanilla releases. If this was the one you played, you still played Arkham City. If you already played Arkham City, this might be a fun way to replay it, but it's definitely not necessary. Warner Brothers' second headliner was Scribblenauts Unlimited, the first home console entry in the series. The write anything and it'll appear gimmick translates beautifully over to Wii U. Something you play by yourself on the DS in the corner with a drippy ass nose is something the whole room can enjoy. This isn't a dazzling use of the system's tech, rather an appropriate one. This just works, and I couldn't imagine Scribblenauts on a better platform. Interestingly, the Wii U version includes Nintendo characters and items you can summon, which showcase Nintendo easing up a bit on their IP usage for the Wii U generation, throwing a bone to the company supporting them. This was cool to see, but to be fair, Nintendo's not as stingy with their franchises as you think they are. Where did you get that? Scribblenauts Unlimited is a joy. It's one of the best puzzle games out there, but definitely a lower key one. It's not the flashiest, most groundbreaking of all time, but it's so fun and lovable and relaxing. You can play through the whole game as intended, or screw around and see what you can summon and how it'll affect things. This is just a magical time, and it's best on Wii U. Oh, I'll be. Warner Brothers has been hitting it out of the park on this console. What's next?
Thinks it's out of my park.
Game Party Champions, a continuation of the Wii series often labeled as worse than Satan.
Hey, whoa! Let's give Satan some credit here.
Well, listen, I never understood the sheer hate these games got. They're nothing special, but for budget clubhouse and sports minigame collections, it is what it is. I don't know what you were expecting, but these did their job. They functioned and were harmless. Game Party Champions? Harms. This game has a story mode where you play somebody who's clinically depressed due to the death of their father.
I know it was tough growing up without a dad. That had to have sucked. But I'm tired of the mopey attitude.
Dad will be dead for the rest of your life. Live now and play air hockey. Just a bunch of minigames where the gamepad's touchscreen is mostly used. The controls actually aren't that bad for the most part. This setup actually feels pretty organic with air hockey. Basketball and football have the same kind of control scheme as Takamaru's Ninja Castle from Nintendo Land, so they work well. But all I can really say about these is that the controls are fine. They aren't really fun. They go on too long and take forever to load. The other games are even more boring, but have worse or just flat out strange controls. The story mode here is unnecessary, and the game as a whole just doesn't look all too good, with the gamepad using stock images down there. Budget minigame collection just doesn't work here like it did on Wii. And now that we're in HD, the flaws are that much more apparent. Like the Dead Dad story mode. Like, what would happen if I put Game Party 2 in HD?
There was a cancer patient in here this whole time?
Of course, if Nintendo wanted to solidify the Wii U as a destination for hardcore games, you had to have Call of Duty, and we got that, alongside a few other Activision titles. Black Ops 2 alongside Mario, Zombie U, and Nintendo Land was one of the most popular games to pick up alongside your system, and for good reasons. This game takes full advantage of being on the platform, while also not forcing those who want as basic of a Call of Duty experience as they can get into having fun. Yeah, you know what's actually really cool here is how Black Ops 2 supports pretty much every controller on Wii U, including Wii Remote and Nunchuck, which was a preferred setup for some people, quote on some quote on people. Though also, you get some extra gamepad features in addition to local multiplayer, where one person gets the whole TV, the other, the gamepad. No split screen needed. It runs and looks comparable to the other versions. All the modes are here, online multiplayer, full campaign, zombies. This might be the best version of Black Ops 2. The sentence isn't over. The DLC packs never made it to Wii U. Outside of the Nuketown 2025 map, which finally released on Wii U in August 2014, yeah, that to me says Activision always viewed the Wii U version as a novelty bonus edition of the game, rather than one they truly cared about and considered to be just as important as the other versions. Which, okay, if you're not going to include something in your port, DLC, sure, you can live without that. But it just doesn't bode well for the consumer. You can see right through it. And judging by the rest of Activision's launch titles, it's obvious what they viewed the Wii U as. Skylanders Giants, Wipeout 3, Transformers Prime. This was just a Wii in HD to them. Hell, Call of Duty consistently released there, so what's the difference now? I don't know. I think I'm reading too into it right now, because Black Ops 2 works really well on Wii U. As for Activision's other launch games, let's play a little game I like to call Who Gives a Shit? Tekken Tag Tournament 2 Wii U Edition. Proudly proclaiming itself to be the only fourth version
just a
released
little.
months later. Well, you know me, I'm down for anything. Tag Tournament 2 is actually the first Tekken game on the Nintendo home console, which is really exciting and concerning at the same time. If it took this long to get Tekken, how long will it take to get my shit together? Well, it's not like this was the first time we got Tekken on Nintendo. It was the first time we got Tekken on Nintendo, and to celebrate, Tag Tournament 2 features an assortment of Nintendo goodies. Costumes for every character, special modes, one based on Mario power-ups. They took Nintendo's blessing and ran with it. There is so much here, and not just Nintendo cameo-wise. The DLC is baked onto the disc. It was free to begin with on the other platforms, but hey, included right off the bat, alongside the rest of a never-ending package. Seriously, this is a stacked fighter. It may have been the only in the genre at launch, but did you really need anything else? The unique features of Tekken on Wii U, though, focus more on the Nintendo fan service side of things, rather than taking advantage of the console's capabilities. You can do off-TV play or have more complex moves as simple touchscreen commands, which is a nice feature for newcomers, though in a local multiplayer setting, the fact that only one player has the gamepad makes this pretty unfair. But it's completely optional, and in my opinion, only adds to the package. This is the definitive version of Tag Tournament 2, no doubt about it. But it wasn't the only title Namco released at launch. It was the only one people didn't give a f*** about. Tank. Hey, props to Namco for making an original Wii U game. And fooling me, because this isn't an original title, it's from the arcades, and this is its one and only console port. Well, it makes a lot of sense, considering each player had their own screen in the arcades. The Wii U seems to be a perfect fit, and yeah, this is a really fun multiplayer game.
Does anybody else smell burnt toast?
Yeah, this is an arcade game, alright. Something that's fun for a bit, but just doesn't have any staying power. There's not enough content, and the content that's there is only entertaining for like 30 minutes. You're just a tank. You team up with your friends to destroy things, or one player on the gamepad can be the giant monkey threat everybody on the TV is up against. Good use of the controller, though it seriously just boils down to one big player against the rest. It's not deep or unique in any way. There's no twist or anything special about this. In fact, that's the best way to describe the game as a whole. Quick, dumb fun that's not special at all. It's honestly a crime this was sold for 50 bones at launch, and makes a lot more sense as a free-to-play download, which is what Namco offered it as a few months later. Tank can be fun. There's just nothing to it. Well, surely Epic Mickey— Oh my god! Epic Mickey 2 The Power 2 strangely wasn't confirmed for the system's launch for a while. I mean, it was announced in spring of 2012 as a multi-platform release. Wii, Xbox 360, PS3. You'd think with Epic Mickey 1 being a Wii exclusive, and now Epic Mickey 2 coming to HD platforms with the gimmick of the game revolving around Mickey's pink.
That was weird. My whole game lagged.
The game lagged because I was killing a Vort of the Burial Valley.
It's me, your Bort.
Now he's burnt of the Dead Valley.
It seems so rude to me.
It's kind of like how all these trolls you're fighting named Mushroom and Rock and who knows what else are now
Dead.
named Dead and Cannonball.
Paintbrush seeming to be a perfect fit for the gamepad's touchscreen, a Wii U version was an obvious choice. Hell, I'd say on paper, it would be the definitive edition. In reality, it was stated that a Wii U version was not in development in April of 2012. So then what the hell happened? Oh, that the hell happened! This is a bad port of the game. Frame rate problems are everywhere, and it runs better on the Wii. And what advantages do you get on Wii U? No off-TV play, you can't use a Wii Remote and Nunchuck in single player if you want, which is the control scheme the game was designed around. You get a map down here, but with the game designed around co-op, you'd think this would be used for your own screen. Nah, we still have split screen like some kind of not Wii U. This is horrible. It's obvious this was rushed out to meet the launch, and not only does it barely take advantage of the Wii U, it just doesn't run well, on top of being a pretty damn lame game. I need a pick-me-up, and thankfully, Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed does a fine job. A real solid kart racer. To some, it's even better than Mario Kart. No, it's a great Mario Kart substitute, an alternative for just a quick change of pace. But when you have both available, why? You really want to be that guy at a party? Well, to be fair, you can do 5 players on one console with Sonic with this Wii U exclusive feature. Plus, play around with a few modes designed specifically for this version, focusing on asymmetrical multiplayer. Yeah, music to my ears. I think that's what the Wii U does best. And while these don't make the Wii U edition of the game an obvious must, I mean, the PC version runs way better and has a ton of exclusive characters, but this is still a
I forgot to grab
to any Wii U owner's collection. A solid as hell racer, one that can definitely satiate those waiting for Mario Kart. But then you have 3 games so forgettable that I forgot them. Darksiders 2 was actually one of the first Wii U games ever revealed at E3 2011, but it always kind of felt like a pretty lame game to point at and say, look Ma, the Wii U has games you don't want me to play. But it's a solid game, one that's obviously inspired by Zelda and God of War. But that contributes to this feeling of this being nothing special. Now, Ben 10 Omniverse and Funky Barn, these are special because I can't be a Funky Barn. The fact this game can be miracle. Surprisingly, none of these games are all too bad. They are what they are, and that's respectable. Though just because I respect you, doesn't mean my brain won't forget you the first opportunity it sees. What was that? Now, this was back when every sports game came to every console. We got NBA 2K13, FIFA 13, and Madden 13. It was a long era. There's some slick uses of the gamepad with all these, like the biometric scan with NBA and calling your plays with Madden. And the second screen is just too fitting for most realistic sports games. However, FIFA and Madden are both missing a lot. No Ultimate Team, extra modes, or the updated engine used on 360 and PS3 for both EA Sports titles. It really left this version feeling like a middle ground between the actual games and the Wii releases. Well, at least EA did good with Mass Effect 3 Special Edition. That was a fine conversion of the game released all the way back in March. They added a decent amount in the form of a digital comic retelling of the first 2 games, and nice gamepad support that's not forced upon you, and some DLC included for free. While other DLC never came, the other platforms received a trilogy bundle containing all games including Mass Effect 3 for the same price as Mass Effect 3 alone on Wii U. Warriors Orochi 3 Hyper, thank Christ, we're done. And that was the Wii U's launch. I often hear many say how this lineup was very lackluster, how the Wikipedia article says so. Used to. But I don't really feel like that's fair to the Wii U. It did a lot of things wrong, but really with the launch lineup, it wasn't that bad, especially compared to the Nintendo 3DS's launch titles, or the GameCubes, the PlayStation 3s, hell, even the PlayStation 4s. There was a lot of stuff to play here. Sure, none of it was a system seller, but if you already bought the system, there was a great variety of games here, most of which were pretty damn good. Yeah, Batman Arkham City was a year old at this point, but it was still Batman Arkham City, now available on a platform with a different audience. I bet a lot of the people who picked up a Wii U at launch hadn't played this game before. But this being here, wasn't exciting. Really, none of the launch titles were. And that was the biggest problem with this lineup. The multi-platform games weren't a graphical step up from what we got elsewhere. So the only potentially exciting thing about the Wii U versions of these games was the gamepad use, and most of them used it in acceptable ways, but that's not exciting, nor is it necessary. The core exclusives were pretty good. Worth buying a console for, though? I don't think so. No way, we did get some cool Nintendo eShop exclusives at launch. The Little Inferno, Trine 2, Mighty Switch Force Hyperdrive Edition. If you were an early adopter of the Wii U and you were bored, why? I can't imagine. You must have been in a coma or something, which would be the worst thing to deal with during prime Wii U hours.
Oh man, I told him he shouldn't get stabbed.
I have killed every troll.
I have murdered 10 million trolls!
All it took was a billion cannonballs.
This guy left his cannon behind.
I didn't.
Left it! Abandoned it!
Why would you think I would leave my cannon behind?
I thought it was still there.
It was not.
Abandoned! What's it doing? I don't remember what I was doing.
God only knows.
Oh, you know.
Am I God?
Hmm.
Kami-sama?
I want
Monkey.
a nice plate of Neil Bream.
It's become...
Did you get a monkey task?
Yes, of course I did.
I'm so sorry.
My monkey slayer doesn't have any monkey charges. Let's
Sounds like it's time to recharge it.
Let's kill a few monkeys, I guess. If I can't, I don't have any juice in the monkey hole. I don't even have any like runite bolts. What
Do
happened?
not put juice in the monkey hole.
What am I starting off with here? 615 kills. Life is pain.
Sorry for your pain.
Pretty cool if I got it in a short trip tonight.
That would be nice.
Would be nice. Don't you laugh at my monkey unluck. You know that's what you're clearly laughing at.
I'm definitely not laughing at bunnies and eating tiny heads of lettuce.
This guy's watching Night of the Lepus while he plays Dark Souls.
This is the episode that had the first Neil Bream, I believe.
At least I got some runite bolts back. Give me the bolts. What the frick? Give me the bolts. Alright, this guy's definitely gonna drop me an item from the rare drop table. Let's get another monkey
Godspeed.
tail. Let's get another monkey tail. I believe in the monkey tail. How could I not get another monkey tail? I'm gonna sue him if he doesn't drop an item from the rare drop table, though. I deserve my third monkey tail. My completely useless third monkey tail. Two could
No
at
one
least...
has ever needed more than one monkey tail. I mean, I get maybe,
You can
but
make both ballistas. The light and the heavy ballista. I don't even think they have a different use. Oh, he dropped 4 diamonds. That is not a, just not a rare drop table. I had my prayer on. Never had my own world of monkeys. There's no one on this server. I don't understand. Never been alone in Monkey Land. There's always players and or bots here.
Scott here. I'm recording this for you to open at a later date. I wanted to show you a glimpse of what you looked and acted like in the past.
Like a fucking dork. Children. Oh man, I got a lot to say on this topic. I have been legally advised to stop there. We were all kids at one point, and our experiences as such helped shape who we are today, for better or for worse. Hey, there's a reason the kids who grew up with video games are still playing them now, and the kids who grew up with WB Kids are in jail now. So maybe if I try to catalog all of my video game experiences throughout my childhood, I can finally figure out how I ended up here. That would be helpful. This was me as a kid. White. No dark hair or glasses though. That wasn't a Nintendo fan yet. And when you're that young, you didn't necessarily ask for most of the things you have. Your parents just get you things they think you might like until you form your own interests and tastes. So the first few games I owned and played happened to be anything my mom thought, oh, he's gonna love this. I was raised in a very particular way. This old Windows 98 gateway computer was my first foray into the video game sphere, with most of the titles my parents owned for it being of the board game and game show variety. To be fair, I'm not sure how many of these were bought specifically for me. I think a lot of the board game titles we had were also popular inclusions in cereal boxes as bonuses, so I assume that's how we got them. Ultimate Yahtzee, Sorry, The Game of Life, all games I remember distinctly seeing as I flipped through our PC game disc binder to play titles I cared about.
Let's see. I'll do one more trip for tonight and see what it's like without freaking
was my PC
Arclight charges.
That wasn't my PC game. This was most certainly one my parents bought for themselves.
Scimitar and see
Doesn't
what
have
the
a
frick
clean grip on the
happens.
age rating. But this was always a favorite of mine. I had a soft spot for how well this replicated the actual game show. The visuals and sounds genuinely made me feel like I was on the television program. Did I know the answers to any of the questions? Surprisingly, one. But it didn't matter. Trivia games were always exciting for me to play. I think because I was an only child, I appreciated them since these were experiences I could have with my parents. They understood the concept of a question, so what's keeping them from other games? We also had Who Wants to Be a Millionaire Sports Edition, which I'd pop in from time to time for variety, but this wasn't mine in the family. I mean, yeah, you could probably assume that. Why should I clarify? Wasn't me. But a game that was all mine was one Disney Magic Artist Studio. This was a paint program with loads of 3D effects to sprinkle amongst your images, and I abused the hell out of it. It's one of those applications that you can just dick around with, and the animations and sound effects were entertaining enough to keep you engaged. You didn't have to be making anything in particular. It was just fun. I feel that programs like this don't get the credit they deserve. That many people who critically look at them go, this is so limited, or why not just use Photoshop? Man, this car sucks. Buy an Audi. This type of software can really help kids express themselves creatively in simple and entertaining ways, or get them to realize they have passion in art. It's also a great stepping stone on the road to Photoshop, because show a caveman this. Will they know where the crop button is? To be fair, starting with Magic Artist Studio can make it more confusing. Where's the worm tool? I use this thing all the time, whether it was to actually make something or actually make something. But when it comes to actual video games I owned, these weren't. Living Books titles. Popular in the 90s, they were point-and-click adaptations of children's stories. I had Arthur's Reading Race and Arthur's Birthday, and this weird blotch on my neck that never went away. Guess which one stuck with me the most? Don't get me wrong, I do have positive memories of these games, but man, I had to dig for them. These are games of mine I played a fair amount, but forgot about for the longest time. And then, all of a sudden, you see a screenshot online that looks familiar, then immediately look up a YouTube video to confirm your suspicions. I f***ing played that! I definitely have nostalgia for these titles, and replaying them will invoke a sense of... But I'd be lying coming up with any legitimate memories or genuine thoughts then and now. These were games I played as
What if we had collective dementia?
And you know what? Might as well throw Tonka
I
Search
feel
and
like
Rescue
I
in
have
that
dementia. I
pile.
feel like I've done this monkey task before.
Looking at these games, this crush of childhood memories
Monkey.
are coming back, but they're
You know, I think you have done the monkey task before.
I have a ton of fondness looking back
I
at
don't
these
have any Z-Nights
other
though.
games I just
That's
have
what monkey
so
tasks give you.
Which brings us to
Monkey tasks don't give you shit.
video
Oh,
game
that's true.
console. I think many kids of the late 90s and early 2000s were in the same boat as me and were weaned on PC games before graduating to ruining Dad's Sunday. I viewed PC games more as once in a while, why not? It's probably due to having to ask my mom whenever I wanted to play on the computer. Hey, this was still during the era of the dial-up modem. Using the internet, you can't use the phone, so because of that, it's understandable why I was only allowed to use the computer during specific times. That and child endangerment. So that fateful day when I was being babysat by my cousins, one of them pulled out their old Sega Genesis and gave it to me. That's when video games went from a toy I'd play with every now and then to a weekly situation. I still wasn't playing them religiously, but getting that old hand-me-down Genesis made things a whole lot more legitimate. I was no longer just playing games on the computer when I was bored for 30 minutes every couple of weeks. I owned a video game console now. Things were changing fast. If there was gonna be a rapture, well, you know I wasn't gonna be a part of it. My cousin included one game with his old system, that being Sonic the Hedgehog. Yeah, what the hell else would it be? Oh, you're throwing the crust in too? I remember playing the hell out of the first Sonic the Hedgehog level. The first level, I mean Green Hill Zone. When we get to the second Marble Zone, couldn't beat it. Now, you may be asking how I couldn't have possibly figured Marble Zone out.
Yes, I too wonder why 5-year-olds suck at things.
I tried and tried and tried and just could never get anywhere far in the stage. Now, since then, I have beaten Sonic 1 a couple of times. I can see 5-year-old me, who only played Green Hill Zone over and over, wasn't missing out on much. That's where the game peaks, so I think I got what I wanted out of that experience at that age. And what an experience it was. This was a great first game. It's so bold and colorful with this giant world to explore featuring power-ups and secrets, different pathways to take, a dead simple control scheme of just run and jump. It was something any kid could handle, while also having so much more depth than I was used to with video games. Collecting 50 rings, making your way to the end of the stage, and seeing that massive rotating ring, it was incredible. Then you try jumping in, and you're brought to my first encounter with epilepsy. Everyone remembers their first. This was so awesome. I may not have gotten far in it as a kid, but sometimes it doesn't matter. What really matters is what you personally got out of something, especially when you're younger. So who cared if I didn't beat Sonic 1? I was doing more important things, like moving on to Sonic 2. A very distinct memory of mine is coming home from dinner with my parents and grandparents, but stopping at a record store on the way back that happened to have old video games. I could finally get more stuff for my Sega. Compared to the loose cartridge I got from my cousin, these had the whole protective cases and everything, which was awesome. I could finally spill my pudding and eggs and pasta salad and bleed all over my games and no harm, no foul. I saw Sonic 2. I had to get Sonic 2, considering Sonic 1 was one of the only video games I knew of at that point. But my mom said I could pick up one other title, and I had to decide between Miss Pac-Man and Pac-Man 2 The New Adventures.
I learned more from that decision than I ever did in college.
I added Miss Pac-Man and Sonic the Hedgehog 2 to my collection that day because God has a plan. This Pac-Man on Genesis was a really solid rendition of the arcade game, which I was already a fan of. Anytime we went somewhere you could make a scene at, I wanted to play it. But to be honest, with how accessible games like Pac-Man are, I feel I wasted a pick on this one. I would receive a few plug-and-play arcade sticks in my day, and I definitely played Miss Pac-Man on this a whole lot more than on Genesis, which meant Sonic 2 was the apple of my eye at the time. I definitely got farther in this than in Sonic 1, the second part of the second level. At the time, it was hard to appreciate how much better of a game Sonic 2 was. I remember maybe liking it a bit more, probably because Chemical Plant Zone was way more fun than Marble Zone. But I still viewed games as toys, things to play with during playtime. Sonic 1 and Sonic 2 to me were like two dolls that were pretty much the same, so you just kind of stick your hand in the toy box and whatever you pull out, that's what you're playing today. Except one is on fire. And that was it for my Sega Genesis experiences as a kid. It really made me realize how one decision can completely change your outlook on life. I definitely wish I spent more time with this platform and had more games for it, but I'm really grateful for having an experience with it at all. This solidified my respect for retro games. That alongside the NES rotting at my grandma's house. Yeah, whenever I'd go to her place, I'd head to the old TV in the den and fire up my cousin's Nintendo, stashed away there with his shoot box of old titles. Some of which included a title that always confused me. Jack Nicklaus's Greatest 18 Holes of Major Championship Golf.
Look at this eh?
One of those games I will always remember, even though I never played it. The cartridge's shiny silver label made it damn near unforgettable. It's about time I settled the score and see what I've been missing all these years. Wow, the 19th hole! Ninja Turtles 1 and 3 were here, right alongside Kung Fu Heroes, Excite Bike, The Adventures of Bayou Billy. I'm sure you can tell the kind of guy my cousin was. Please tell me I haven't seen him in years. While I dabbled in all of these, none captured my attention quite like Super Mario Brothers, Duck Hunt, and Super Mario Brothers 3. I would play each one of these games every time I'd visit. So much to the point where my parents helped me replace the controllers by buying new ones on eBay for the thing. I think my mom noticed I was digging this kind of stuff. And while the computer, Genesis, and plug-and-play sufficed, it was time for an upgrade.
I have bad news. Your son is a gamer.
For my birthday in 2002, I received a purple Game Boy Advance, my very first new game system. Now, considering the rest of my family lived an hour away from me, I think my parents knew I needed some backseat entertainment to get through car rides every weekend. And after spitting milk in my lap fell through, I guess this was the next best option, and the game I got with it was SpongeBob SquarePants Legend of the Lost Spatula for Game Boy Color. Let me tell you, as a kid, you're not always privy to what's considered a good game. Neither are your parents. And as a mother, I don't know why you'd buy your kid this anyways. So, back in the day, licensed games based on properties you already like were like lice.
I got him.
As a child, I liked SpongeBob. If you will, I was a SpongeBob, a sponge f***. That was my show. Everybody had their show, so don't go making fun of me when your show was goddamn skunk foo. I watched every episode, consumed everything I possibly could revolving around the franchise for the longest time, until that fateful day when I realized the show hadn't been good for years. But those early years, there ain't nothing like it. And hey, this game released during that era. In fact, it's the first SpongeBob game ever. Can you tell? Yeah, even back then, I could tell this was pretty rudimentary. It was hard to unconditionally love this thing simply due to being based on the show I watched when it was so dull and awkward. It's confusing as hell, too. It's oftentimes hard to know where to go and what to do. The game is non-linear in its design and revolves around exploring levels to find items to help us progress, which, hey, they could have just made this a SpongeBob calendar. Props to them for going above and beyond. Alright, when do I start bitching again?
If only they made this a SpongeBob calendar, I would know!
The screen is so zoomed in and SpongeBob jumps so high and stiff that it's beyond annoying to get anywhere. Especially when so much of the level design revolves around platforms in the air off the screen. But the developers found a great method to teach players what to do here. They put various enemies in line with your jumping height off screen. That'll teach you to play our game. I never got far in this one as a kid. I honestly only played to mess around in some of the levels, maybe look at the main menu since it reminded me of the show. I may have played this a lot back in the day, but by that I mean I let it happen to me. Just a crummy little kid's game, that's all this is. It isn't unacceptable or egregious, it's just completely worthless if you aren't a 6-year-old SpongeBob fan in 2001. I was 5 in 2002. Damn it! Pretty interesting experience getting a Game Boy Color game as my first game on Game Boy Advance. Actually, come to think of it, I might have played around with the aspect ratio stretching feature more than the actual game here. But that's all the more reason to get an actual Game Boy Advance game. And one of my next titles just so happened to be Frogger's Adventures Temple of the Frog. Strange this was one of my first GBA games, as I don't recall being much of a Frogger nut at that age, but hey, maybe I was a late bloomer. This era in gaming felt lucrative for these old school arcade mascots. I mean, simply judging by the fact this was one of my first games, and considering how well it sold overall, I think a lot of parents are buying these for their kids because they recognize the names from back in the 80s. Oh, it's Gore! They'll love Gore! Temple of the Frog is actually a pretty natural evolution of the original Frogger arcade game, expanding it from one screen to sprawling levels. It ain't half bad. Now, what did 5-year-old Scott think? He didn't. Let's add another to the Scott barely even finished the first level but played this one a lot pile. I don't know what my problem was. It's goddamn Frogger. Well, thankfully, my next game was an entirely different story. Super Mario World, Super Mario Advance 2. The very first Mario game I could call my own, and what an entry to start things off with. Back then, I didn't think twice about this being a game from the 90s thrown onto the GBA. I just viewed it as a game. Well, why didn't I question the copyright date, or the back of the box here, or what the title meant? This was just a Mario game to me. And even if I didn't fully comprehend its origins, it didn't make me any less obsessed. I remember getting some Mario toys from a Wendy's kids meal back in 2002. One of them being this little action figure. I would tie a Kleenex around his neck to mimic the cape power-up. It just captured my imagination, unlike any game I played prior. Yeah, this This was my go-to cartridge at the time, for more reasons than one. Literally! Included with many Mario games on the Game Boy Advance was a remake of the original Mario Brothers arcade game, which was bad. Sure, it's a classic. We wouldn't have gotten Super Mario Brothers without Mario Brothers. Yeah, okay, well, the same logic applies to Big Kmart. The gameplay design here is solid, but man, the controls just butcher this one. And jumping in this is like... Oh, I'm set! In this version, dubbed Mario Brothers Classic, we have actual controls. So smooth and fast-paced with beautiful new backgrounds, mechanics, 4-player multiplayer. This is Mario Brothers to me. This is fucked up. Ain't this essential during long car rides? Because as great as Super Mario World is, it's always a plus to have an endurance-based arcade game to hop over to for some variety. This was no doubt one of my favorite games. And you know what that means? I didn't beat it. I got stuck at this part in the Forest of Illusion. You beat a level and the map reveals... What the hell does that mean? I wouldn't say this made me a die-hard Mario fan, but it for sure put the franchise on the map for me and locked in one of the greatest games of all time as an integral part of my childhood. It's seriously validating to see something that you enjoyed as a kid actually turned out to be one of the all-time greats. What's next on the list? Oh, thank God! Just because I had a Game Boy now didn't mean I stopped tinkering with the PC. Over there, I had another licensed SpongeBob title, this one being Employee of the Month. Man, I played this one so many times. It's a point-and-click adventure game, though I think calling this an adventure is pushing it, as well as game. You point and click here. This is about as interactive as QuickBooks. But considering the target demographic for this, I'm stupid. It makes sense how simple, straightforward, and short this one is. And to be fair, that made it ripe for replays. If I had an hour or two to kill on a lazy summer afternoon, I'd fly through this because why not? Certain aspects always resonated with me. The sound effects, locations, items you collected, public nudity, all things you just remember as a kid. So replaying it today, while I definitely enjoyed myself, it wasn't because this was an ideal experience. Just goes to show how much nostalgia can affect your perception of things, which is perfectly fine. I think it's totally reasonable to like something just because you grew up with it. However, when you fail to see any flaws and can't comprehend why nobody else likes it,
well, that's because you're right.
Makes me scared to death to say anything bad about any horrible, stupid, fucking dumbass piece of garbage this game kind of game you might have grown up with. I don't want to offend you. Like, are there any defenders out there for Rugrats I Gotta Go Party, also known as Carpet Mice I Gotta Take a Mean Shit? This was another GBA game of mine based on yet another Nickelodeon property, and it's a party minigame collection. It's like watching food rot. Most of the minigames here are of the who gives a shit variety. In this game, we gotta pick the right thing. Pick the right thing? Pick the right thing. My God, just let me pick the wrong thing for once.
Well, I already chose this game.
This features some of the most basic ideas for games imaginable, now with a Rugrats skin. And when things actually get a little more creative, you realize how much they directly ripped off Mario Party minigames. And when things are actually completely original, absolute time waster. That's all this was. Not bad, but not substantial whatsoever. It's something for your thumbs to do, the game. Much like I Spy Challenger. Another childhood game of mine I damn near blew a gasket trying to remember. Oh yeah, completely forgot I owned this, but after replaying it, yep, it's all coming back to me. This is based on the I Spy books, which were always a treat to peruse. And one problem, they don't work with the B button. That's where Challenger comes in. A couple modes are included, which mostly boil down to actual I Spy or matching-based puzzle games. But once again, we have a game I played a lot, but only when I was depressed enough to do so. Car Ride Fodder, which I guess Pac-Man Collection sort of falls into that category as well. I got 4 Pac-Man games here. Pac-Men, if you will. The original Pac-Man, which I was more than familiar with at this point, but also Pac-Man Arrangement, Pac-Mania, and Pac-Attack, which were entirely new experiences for me. I got a fair amount of playtime out of every title on display here. Though, looking back, I definitely would have preferred getting Namco Museum here instead. I mean, that had Miss Pac-Man, plus a handful of other Namco arcade games I liked, which was definitely better variety than 4 then. But I still got a lot out of this collection, mostly from Pac-Man Arrangement. It's basically a new take on the original game with some stage gimmicks and Kinky the Ghost. Definitely makes it way more engaging, especially for a kid. But what sealed the deal for me was the Unlimited Continues. It made for an unforgettable night at my grandma's house where I played this one for hours. It was legendary, which is more than I can say about Pac-Attack. I would try this from time to time, but I never understood it all too well. A Pac-Man puzzle game, but of course at the time, I don't think I knew what puzzle games were, so I think I mainly played this when I needed to humble myself a bit. Pac-Mania! Pac-Manic Syndrome. I like this one because it was 3D and Pac-Man could jump. What did you like as a kid? If we're talking Desert Island games again, would you? Jimmy Neutron versus Jimmy Negatron. Watch how you say that. This was a sequel to the game based on the original movie, Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius, though this one is based on the show titled The Adventures of Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius, which, based on all existing logos of this game, it is fair to consider this the official title, though official press releases refer to it otherwise. So what's the legal name for this game? Well, let's sue to find out. Oh, and I got nowhere in this one, and for good reason. While these games weren't anything special, I still popped them in from time to time because I didn't have the urge to play them. This game, I only ever really put in to see my Game Boy run a 3D looking thing. I will play for 10 minutes and then react accordingly. Wow, this looks cool. Other than that, I have genuinely no memories with this thing, which is insane. I mean, I remember more about the PC version of this game, which I didn't own. I just played the demo for it included with Employee of the Month. I honestly got a better Jimmy Neutron kick over there with that, plus Nickelodeon Toon Twister 3D. A little application with 3D models of Nickelodeon characters you can manipulate and create your own cartoon. And listen, this was a big deal for me back then. I could realize some of my wildest dreams with this thing.
Hi there, Carl.
I can't stop!
Do you smell it?
I loved fiddling around with this, kind of like how I felt with Disney Magic Artist Studio. Though this one, the joy came from creating the Rugrats episode I always wanted.
Hi there, Carl!
Between the computer, my GBA, and rotting Sega Genesis, I definitely had enough to keep me busy, but not a ton of genuine gaming experiences were had. Outside of a few key titles, the kind of games I was playing...
Is that pissing my pants or am I just embarrassed?
Thus, it was time for something new. For my birthday in 2003, I received a brand new home console. The Nintendo GameCube. Platinum Edition. I had no goddamn clue what this was.
I mean, to be fair, the name did a good job explaining it.
It's a shape! I didn't ask for this, so I assume my mom pulled a mom in a toy store and was, in fact, a mom in a toy store. Walk up to clerk, explain you have a son who's turning 6. He has a Game Boy, but that's it. Well, I will point you in the direction of the Nintendo GameCube. It's the cheapest console on the market, it's kid-friendly, and with an adapter, you can play your Game Boy games on it too. Because there is no way in hell she would have gotten this for me if that wasn't the case. Yep, alongside the GameCube, the only game I got with it was the Game Boy Player, which did ensure I had a beefy library of games to play here right from the get-go. By that I mean, I feel this is more beef than game. Game Boy Player was an awesome contraption, but as my only GameCube game for a bit there, it definitely made for an odd first impression. The only reason I'd play this console for a while there was to understand the concept of unnecessary. Still really liked this, though it was definitely something I used just for the sake of switching things up back then. I needed a game made for the GameCube to really get the most out of this console, for an experience I couldn't have already. So one day at Toys R Us, I had the opportunity to get an actual GameCube game. Oh, and I got this new book! My first genuine GameCube game was Sonic Mega Collection. I remember picking it up at the store and my mom suggesting it based on the other Sonic games I had. I don't think she or I realized this was those other Sonic games I had, but there were some others thrown in here, so not all was lost. Yep, not all was lost. My integrity, my mind, my Well, I still had my Genesis. Oddly weirdly enough, I'd still hop between these two systems, playing Sonic 1 and 2 on either or. I guess I was just happy using a different controller. But oftentimes, I wouldn't even really play Sonic Mega Collection. I would just boot it up and look through all the extras, specifically the comic book covers. Many of these are etched into my mind forever. It was really cool to see all the different interpretations of Sonic here, and the music backing these menus was incredible. It was like I was walking down memory lane without ever even experiencing these prior. I was a big bonus features kid. I love behind-the-scenes tidbits, and this collection not only wet my whistle, it f***ing drenched it. But what about the games included? Well, this was my first experience with Sonic 3, Knuckles, Spinball, 3D Blast, and Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine. I never got far in any of these, but I messed around with them a fair bit. Though I didn't unlock any of the hidden games. Yep, that's one less childhood with Flicky in it. Did my parents care? But I had more than enough fun dicking around with these from time to time. Though that's all I really did. I had no idea what I was doing in Spinball, 3D Blast, or Mean Bean Machine. As Sonic and Knuckles, I barely ever progressed in. In Sonic 3, I never beat the first level, so more often than not, I would head on over to the extras. The video section was cool. It made me realize there were actual video games available on this console. Whoa, 3D graphics! That Sonic Adventure 2 game promo looked incredible! So, when it was time for me to get a new GameCube game, I picked up, take a wild damn guess, SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom. Yet another licensed game. Yet another Nickelodeon game. Yet another SpongeBob game. I bet you're saying, I predict the next game he owned was Suikoden 5. Well, Battle for Bikini Bottom really spoke to me, as it had SpongeBob on the front. I think I just saw a SpongeBob thing, I wanted a SpongeBob thing. But by God, out of all SpongeBob things, this was the SpongeBob thing. Behold, Scott's greatest accomplishment, convincing his mom to buy this for him. Because I genuinely could not imagine my childhood without this game. I know that sounds silly about this, especially considering how the other SpongeBob games I've played weren't all too great. But this was special. A 3D platformer, not unlike Super Mario 64 and Banjo-Kazooie. But this was SpongeBob. This was SpongeBob's world. I was transported into my favorite show as a kid. Which I think emphasizes how important licensed games can be if done properly. The levels here were so big and lovingly crafted to be incredibly faithful interpretations of locations from the source material. I remember exploring SpongeBob's house and neighborhood by themselves for hours, voicing the characters to craft my own cartoon in real time. I would pop a blank VHS tape into the VCR, hook up my GameCube, and...
Oh my God.
Take it your monkeys aren't going well?
I just got a rare drop table drop that is a 1 out of 12,800.
The fuck?
Yeah, it's not, like, useful for anything, but, yeah, I mean, that's how it's going.
Ivan just wants a uncommon to rare from the gotcha machine and it's giving him triple SSSRs.
I guess, if you can call it that.
So what did your super rare drop that is not that useful do?
I mean, it's a hat. That's it. That's
all. Not an upgrade for anything?
No. I will never equip it. It's got a clue scroll attached to it, I think. Yeah.
Well, I guess now you can do that clue scroll.
Great. Great.
Brittany has received 0x Abyssal Orphans.
done with that for tonight. See you stream. Bye.